To celebrate 3 years on YouTube and as a push to reach 1,000 subscribers, I've got 2 giveaways. The first giveaway is a commemorative plate from Franklin Mint of John Wayne, the Duke. And the second giveaway is a figure of Bebop from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. To win any of these two, just put in any of my videos, put a comment with either hashtag the Duke or hashtag Bebop. The draw will be done once I've reached 1,000 subscribers, so good luck, and remember, I'm not old, I'm classic. Yay! Hello boys and girls, lads and lassies, and welcome back to another Let's Talk Geeky with my 2 co-hosts, Archer Colin and Gillian. Julie, Colin, hello.
Hello.
What? Oh, up to 783. Very nice.
Yes, getting there, pushing. So, yeah. Oh, do you know what I've been watching? Remember I said I was on Hogan's Heroes, finished it. I'm on season 2 of Wings.
I love Wings so much.
Yeah. Tony Shalhoub's not on it yet. He's been on it as the Italian waiter.
Right. He went over so well in the show that they brought him back.
Yeah, I guess that because he 174 shows and he was in 144 of them.
Yeah.
So obviously it must be in season 3 brought him back because I'm on season 2 and he did the waiter on it. So he's not in it yet. But
have you seen? So you've never seen the show?
No, I haven't seen the show.
Okay.
I'd heard about it, hadn't seen it. The only thing I don't like about it is the music. Basically, it doesn't seem like an intro music with it just seems too generic.
Well, it's one of the few intros that actually, the actual intro to the show is Franz Schubert, a piano concerto.
Yeah. It just doesn't seem like an intro. It seems too generic, if you know what I mean. Maybe that's why it's one of those ones that we hear and it doesn't tie to something.
You know, in their defense, I think part of it is that it's a very quiet show. It's not as it's not as well known as Cheers or Frasier, even though it's part of the universe.
Norman Cliff were in it.
Yes, they were. Yes.
And
Frasier and Lilith are in it at some point also.
Well, I've only seen the one with Norman and Cliff come in it.
Okay. Yeah, Frasier and Lilith come in at one point also.
So,
but it's one of my very favorite shows because it is so unassuming.
What is Faye's full name in it?
Faye something Schlob Cochran. Oh God, hold on, let me look her up. Her name is really long.
Well, I just wanted to still make sure I hadn't got it wrong because I got it as Faye Evelyn Schlob Dudley DeVay Cochran.
Yep, that's it. Very long name. Yeah, and then both Joe and Brian are going to be at Tampa Comic-Con.
Very good.
Yeah, well, I'm not going because they want a lot of money for anybody I would want to see. But yeah.
Yeah, well, basically
I'm enjoying
it. I must admit, I'm enjoying it, and it is fun. It's the only one that I find is laugh out loud funny is Joel or Lowell.
Oh, Lowell, yeah. Lowell. Well, Lowell is, the equivalent of what's the character's name? Like Coach in the early years of Cheers.
Yeah.
He's kind of dumb and
he has his moments.
He does. He's a mechanic savant.
Yeah.
And Roy is funny. Roy's, kind of gross, kind of creepy.
The type of character you wouldn't have nowadays. He's the type of character you wouldn't have nowadays.
Yeah. Exactly. He's too much of a lech.
Uh-huh.
I absolutely love that show. I think the dynamic between the brothers is actually pretty realistic.
Mm-hmm. One of them I recognize. I've seen him in different things.
Well, Joe, Timothy Daly is the brother of Tyne Daly, who was in Cagney and Lacey.
Yeah. Well, the other one, Brian, I recognise him from, I think it's things like, not The Librarians, but that type. I think
He
what
was
was it?
in a Stephen King movie that I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, he's almost like he's played in those type of parts like The Librarians or
Right.
Relic Hunter type. I could see him as an Indiana Jones type. I'm sure there was something he was in like that.
Joe also voiced Superman in the cartoons.
Very good. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. So season 2, as I said, I'm actually on season 2, episode 21,
Oh, wow.
where the murder comes in. The mother comes back in.
Okay, got
So
it.
the mother has just appeared the first time. I'm assuming
Right.
she's going to appear later on.
Where are you watching it? Did you buy the DVDs, or is it on like Prime or something?
Open seas. I was going to do the
Got it.
typing dance, but I decided
Got
not
it.
to.
Got it. Yeah, because here I believe it's on a couple of different streaming services.
I've probably got it on something. Because
And I own all the DVDs, and unfortunately, they don't give it any special treatment. There's no making of. There's no,
yeah,
special features. There's nothing, which to me is a shame because it's a really
it's one of those.
good show.
It's the same as I was in the charity shops today and I saw the box set for Friends.
Oh.
Every episode, unseen footage, extras, intros, documentaries were all in this box. And I decided not to get it.
How much did they want?
£20.
For everything? That's actually not too bad.
For the box set with everything. So it was every episode, all the extras, anything that's related to it. So there was a lot of unseen footage as well. So I was tempted, but I had got other things from different places. So when I was out today, I went to Calendar, nice wee holiday town in Scotland. Decided to just go for a wee drive, and then when we were passing, I nipped into another place and had fun there, and had fun all in all. So we did, sitting at the bench with the fish and chips. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, it was a fun day out today, but I'm knackered. So,
Tim Daly was also in a show called Eyes, which I absolutely loved. Personally, I found it to be appointment TV. Unfortunately, it only lasted 12 episodes.
See, I looked at some of the ones and I didn't recognise anything he was in. The one that played Faye, I know she was in Suits and other bits and pieces, but I didn't even recognise a lot of the shows she was in.
Thing, Rebecca Shull, the actress who played Faye, she's always been a character actress, so a lot of people might recognize the face.
See, I recognised the face, but I hadn't really known. But I know she's been in the other shows. I don't really know.
So she was hanging out with Meghan Markle. Poor thing.
Yeah.
But there was I don't know if you guys saw the film United 93. It's a movie about the plane that crashed into Pennsylvania, that the passengers redirected it so that it crashed into the ground in Pennsylvania rather than into the House of Representatives.
I haven't seen it.
Or the Capitol. It's really, really good. But the point is that I'm pretty sure they intentionally hired actors nobody recognized, because that way it was easier to believe that they were real people.
Yeah, I can say that.
Right. The only actor in the entire movie I recognized was Rebecca Shull.
Yeah. Well, it's not as if there was going to be a franchise for them.
No. No,
cold.
This is true.
That's cold.
Too soon. Yeah.
Only 22 years.
Oh, yeah. Can you believe it? 22 years.
I remember I was in a shopping centre in Aylesbury, I think. And I remember we still had TV rental shops then, and I actually saw parts of that on a TV on a screen in a TV rental shop, and I thought it looked like I thought I've seen better special effects in the movies.
I didn't see.
I was at work and somebody said to me, "Did you know a plane crashed into one of the twin towers?" I was waiting for the punchline.
Yeah.
And then they said no, and then basically every computer in our office, I had to tune in to.
Well, I had a doctor's appointment that morning, and I always walked to work because I'm cheap, and I figured it was some of the best exercise I was going to get. And excuse me, I always had my radio on, listening to music or talk or whatever. And I was listening to people talking about, because I didn't have to be at work until 10. And I was walking to the doctor's office and I heard about a plane hitting the World Trade Center. And I get into the doctor's office and we're all talking about it. And then the doctor herself comes in and barely says hello to anybody and just keeps running and goes into her office, closes the door. And about 15, 20 minutes later, she comes back. And she takes me in and she says, "I'm sorry about that, but my husband and I live down there and he works from home and I wanted to make sure he was okay and that our apartment was okay." And so we did all the doctory things, and I walk out to pay the bill, and the receptionist just stood there staring and said, "It fell down." And there was somebody else there, and she and I looked at each other, and we looked at the receptionist. "What do you mean? What fell down?" And she said, "The building fell down." Sort of in this like airy-fairy kind of voice that she was just like total disbelief. And we're like, "What building fell down?" And as soon as we realized it was the World Trade Center that fell down, I ran out of the office to head to work and got to work before 10 o'clock. And every single person in my department was standing. We were on the top floor of a 30-something story building, and we had an unimpeded view of what was happening.
Wow.
And I got there a couple of minutes before the second tower fell, and you could just see the brrrr as it went down. And people were crying, and the phones went dead shortly afterwards. And my mom and I were calling each other to make sure we could make arrangements because she couldn't get home. Manhattan Island was a shut off from the rest of the world. So we'd arranged for her to come to my house, which was a good 4 or 5 miles from her, because she worked south of the lockdown zone. And I was able to reach. No, I wasn't able to reach I was able to reach my father and say, "No, Mom's staying here because you can't pick her up, because every route you would take to get to pick her up goes by an airport. Do you really want to go by an airport?" So, and I had just installed cable internet rather than dial-up internet. And that was really my only outlet to the real world, was my cable internet. So I had to email, because all the phones were dead. We weren't allowed to use mobiles because back then there just weren't as many towers.
Yep.
So nobody, unless you were a first responder or a VIP, you weren't allowed to use your mobile. So I get home, and my brother lives in California. I had to email him to call my father, who was maybe 25 miles away from where I was at that time, to tell him Mom had arrived and we were okay.
Smooth.
Yeah. It was, and then
crazy, isn't it?
It really was. It was an incredibly crazy day. We were far enough away that we did not get ash dumped on us, thank God. But both of us are asthmatic, so it was really, really hard to breathe, and the stench lasted for weeks. And there were fighter jets flying over Manhattan, and it was so quiet. It was eerie. It was just the weirdest couple of days I think I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
Never want to experience that again. And I'm not claiming it was like the Blitz or anything. It was just
Well, we can honestly say,
really creepy.
no matter what Roman says about Colin, none of us lived through it.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Well,
and I know there's people who are mutual acquaintances of all of ours who don't believe it happened. But my mother saw the first plane hit when she was walking to work. It was not a hologram.
Irrelevant of what people think of the conspiracy of the insurances and how it fell. I've seen the people who say that was just a CGI plane, and I'm sitting there thinking, do you think people didn't look up and go, I didn't see a plane get in there?
Yeah, my mother saw the plane.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, sometimes I'm very skeptical, especially of government. I'm very skeptical of government.
Oh,
But
I'm
even
very
I
skeptical.
don't think they just somebody actually says, right, we're going to do an explosion. I want you to draw a plane flying in. Really? You're that bloody. You think people are that dumb that they would accept that a CGI plane that nobody would have seen it? Especially after the first one did it. People would have been watching what happened with the first one, that they didn't see they wouldn't have seen a second one with suddenly an explosion.
Exactly.
Exactly. So I mean, I'm very skeptical about certain things, and yeah, I do like a good conspiracy theory. But who's playing the pipes?
Pardon?
I can hear pipes.
I can't. Oh, now I do. I hear something.
I can hear bagpipes. I'm going to mute me just in case it.
Do you know what I can hear? Something else.
It's okay. It's on the TV through it. My wife's. It's the bagpipes. I thought I could hear bagpipes. It's a funeral service. My wife went back on, so she could. It was pipes. So basically, I was wondering. I'm sitting there thinking, I can hear bagpipes. I thought I was hearing things because I was obviously at the castle in Scotland.
Well, the weirdest thing about 9/11 for me personally, because again, even though I do know people who died, one person I know who died was not supposed to be in the building that day. He was there for an offsite meeting. One person I know who did work in the building, who should have died, didn't because she was at an offsite meeting. But I had lost my job earlier that year, and I'd interviewed for a job on the 97th floor of Tower 1.
Wow.
Yeah, which was Point of Impact. And the recruiter told me that they really liked you. They want to bring you back. Everything was great. You'd be perfect for this job. And a couple of days later, she called me all apologetic, saying, I am so, so sorry that they've instituted a hiring freeze. Because remember, this was right around the time the tech bubble burst.
Yep.
And this was a major company. And they couldn't hire anybody. And this was in March of that year, and I was depressed, but my mother said, don't forget, everything happens for a reason. And in about 2 weeks afterwards, my mother called me and she said, go to the such and such website now while you're on the phone with me. So I did. And right there on the front, on the homepage of the website, was the faces of several people, of the people who'd interviewed me that day.
Yep.
Every single person I met that day died. And since I'm never late for anything, if I'd gotten that job, I'd be dead too. And I think that's what really just I mean, I told that story to a nun, and she was saying, God works in mysterious ways, and don't ever forget it.
Yeah. But it's just things that happen. It's weird how something it can seem such bad news can turn out to be a godsend later on.
Well, that's exactly it. Now, speaking of bad news, I didn't really see anybody talking about 7/7.
They never do, and they don't. They basically 7/7. I know it sounds silly, but doesn't mean anything
Because I've heard people, because in past years I've heard people talk about it, but just not the past recent years.
because of the pandemic and stuff like that, and
Okay.
how crazy London is, especially. It's just another thing that happened down there, and it's. I know it sounds crazy, but we don't. The date doesn't ring, if you know what I mean. 7/7 means nothing.
Mm.
Colin, you know what we're talking about, obviously,
Yeah,
but it's not because of the 7/7.
it just doesn't mean anything big. Unfortunately, I'm ashamed to say, but there was a bit of a feeling at first in September of 2001. Now you know how it feels
Mm-hmm.
because, yeah, I mean, obviously, not to downplay, we'd never had anything anywhere near that serious. But yeah, 7/7 was what again?
Yeah,
we
and that was the thing.
Okay.
we've had
'Cause I
them.
remember when
It's
it
just,
happened, people were saying this is memorable and we need to, Oh, speaking of people who did 9/11 and 7/7, you heard what's happening in the Netherlands.
Yes,
yeah.
That's amazing.
they're basically actually deciding, nope.
Yeah.
Well, I saw something the other day on YouTube that they were interviewing people in Galway and saying, "Do you know what the most
Yeah,
common name is?"
name in Galway, yeah.
And I'd read something a couple of years ago about Oslo, the same thing.
Mm-hmm. That's
I mean,
it's the same in Scotland, but
I
that's
mean,
been years
on
because
a certain
obviously,
level, on a certain level, I get it because let's face it, in a Muslim family, everybody's gonna. If you've got 5 boys, they're all probably named Mohammed.
yeah, it's just
Well, you look at it. I mean, it's not so much in. I mean, I don't know if it's a religious or if it's a cultural thing, but you see in a lot of places, Spanish speaking South American and the rest of it, where they've got a Catholic, Jesus is a very popular name.
They use a lot of names like that. I used to know somebody named Concepcion.
Yeah, but I mean, I would say, and without meaning to be offensive, that calling someone Jesus is on a par in Christianity, on a par in Islam, with calling someone Muhammad. You're
Oh yeah, and we
naming.
don't do it that often. In
Well, we
English,
don't,
we never do it.
as I say, but there's the
The Spanish
Catholic,
do.
the Spanish Catholic. So
Yeah, the South
yes,
Americans do.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, you don't find that in Spain.
no, I don't think so.
no,
But
it's
South
just it's
America, you
basically
definitely.
every country's or every culture's got a most popular name. That's why when they were asking them, and the majority of them were going for good old fashioned Irish names. It'd be the same if you asked them in Scotland. They would most people would answer good old fashioned Scottish names,
Right. Well, of course, that's
Callum,
what they did.
Fraser, and it's the same as if you said in England it would be John or and that type of thing. So it's just one of those things. But there's so many names out there. Thankfully, we're not all called the same.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's only one PJ, and that's enough.
No, it's not
And
PJ.
according to some, it's more than enough.
It's not PJ. It's PJ. It's PJ. 10 of you are called PJ. It could be worse. You could all be called Zathras.
Aye. Well, one of my friends,
Better than Jesus.
basically used to actually. He's from Thailand, so he was given a a speech when we were in uni. I did my speech on Doctor Who villains because you were to pick anything, and it was just to get you up there and pick something off the top of your head. And he picked on the language, and he gave an example. He says that you've got yeah, 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 and yeah, and we're going, that's all the same word. He says no, and then he explained what each 5 of them meant, and then you could see a couple of the girls and a couple of the guys were going, but they all sound exactly the same. I says there, and there.
Yeah.
And he goes, what? I says there, and there. And he says, but they sound the same. I says, just because they sound the same. There's over there, or there, and yeah, I mean, it's theirs, there, and there. It says that that's just one example of three words that are sound the same but completely different. Just because in Thailand they had 5, and he was basically saying I can hear the difference when I'm saying the words. I see, and it's one of those things you hear the difference. So if I hear somebody with a Scottish accent saying there, and there, I can see that. I can hear that's 3 different words, 3 different meanings for a sound. But he did it for 5, and it's just one of those things. Language is fun for that.
Well, it is definitely.
Yeah, and it's the same idea. Culture and language is just weird because you look at the African, the clicking.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard some people talk.
Hustle,
I've heard one or two talk like that, and then you're sitting there thinking, it sounds silly, but it flows off the tongue because that's how naturally they speak, and we would hear sounds as not words; it's just sounds, but it's part of the language.
All the spoken word is a sound.
Yeah.
Or a series of sounds put together in a pattern that are given a specific meaning.
What we recognise, it doesn't matter if it's a foreign language or whatever, is we hear words that we don't understand in the sound of noise, but it's a sound, not a word.
Yeah, it's not a word that we're culturally.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exactly, we hear a sound, we don't hear a word, but it's part of the language. So, in all fairness, it is a word, but it's just one that culturally we don't recognise as a word, which is crazy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's very sorry, I just it's really weird when it happens, isn't it? It's just, I mean, it's fascinating the way language actually changes.
Well, the language changes all the time.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at, obviously, because I'm doing my research for my metal detecting, even place names. Just seeing that, like somebody says, "Oh, this farm used to have a different name, but we can't find what it was." And it's so similar. It's spelt completely different. Pronunciation's almost identical, and it's because of that. So you basically, like, for instance, pear, right? So if something's got pear in it, if you go back long enough, it might have pear, but it's still the similar idea. So the pear became pear at some point, but it's just because the way they pronounced it changed, so the spelling of it changed as well, and it's things like that. So it's all to do with the way the language changed, the way it was the word had been changed throughout the generations. It suddenly went from pear to pear, and it's weird. So the PEAR to PIER, and you're sitting there thinking, those are 2 different words, but they sound so similar that gradually over time, the sound of the name of the place has changed. So that word, the spelling get changed to match it, and it's because of that. But it's one of those things, isn't it? See,
Hmm.
we don't just talk about geeky stuff. We talk about intellectual stuff. We talk a lot
Well,
of crap mainly,
I'm-
but
Well, intellectual stuff is geeky too for
I was
some.
going to. I was going to say I would be tempted to say things like how language works is a geeky.
Absolutely.
yeah.
I
Or
suppose.
as I saw a chip on the chip shop on the wall was, I do talk a lot of bullshit, but sometimes I like to sit back and and hear a pro continue. So yes, but it's yeah. I mean,
Which I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I said, I mean, I put on that. Of course, I'm not surprised. We've probably talked about it before. You just PJ just wouldn't stop talking long enough for anyone to read the chat.
yeah,
No, it's
cheeky
funny.
bugger.
No,
Aye,
that's
that is actually true.
no, that's a prime example of what we're saying is how do you spell G? How would you pronounce GHOTI? If
GH.
yeah, without looking at it, if you just think GHOTI, how would you
Don't look
pronounce
at
that?
chat because I've already
Don't look
answered
at
the
chat.
question.
Yeah, if you don't know
Right.
the answer.
No.
Fish.
Fish,
GH.
like in tough.
Vote. GH as in tough. I as in women. TI as in action.
GHITH.
Yeah.
GHOTI.
Gish. Aye.
No,
Fish.
fish.
Fish,
GH
like in swimming.
I know, but basically the only two spellings of fish I know is FISH and PHISH.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
now there's
the
GHOTI.
point is
I
it's
would
the
never
other way
have put
around.
that. If I'd seen that written down, I wouldn't have said that says fish.
No, that's the point that we're making is that GH, right, can be if you say the word tough, the f is
Yeah.
GH. You say women, even though it's an I, the I is an O, and action, the sh is a TI. So in other words,
well, the women
no,
part,
it's a
yeah, but the women
complicated
part
language.
is more of an affectation because you wouldn't write it as women.
No, but no, that's
WOMEN, women.
It's women.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, the proper pronunciation. It's like the Scottish language.
What is the proper pronunciation of women?
Women?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but that's what I'm saying. But just because we say women, that's a laziness in the speech. It's not. I would never have considered fish because women. That's what I'm saying. Because if somebody put it down saying because of that, I'd say, but that's women. That's what I'm saying. It's
but
but
that's
it's
how it's
same as if
pronounced.
you use a Scottish one like talking fish. That's not. Has that got an SH at the end of it? Is it two S's? Do you know what I mean?
I don't know.
So
Well,
somebody's talking fish.
yeah, but that's I think you're putting an accent. But that's the point.
But
Of
that's
that.
what I'm saying. The accent.
Yeah.
So the bit with women, I would have said that's just part of the accent, and I wouldn't have seen that as part of the word. That's what I'm saying.
I've always
When you
said
were
it's-
using women as an example, I would have said women is just an affectation as a part of the accent because it's not the.
No, but do you normally pronounce the female of woman as women as do you go woman?
I use the see you're talking to a Scotsman. I use a U instead of an I. It's a woman.
So it'd be woman.
Uh-huh.
Okay, fair enough. No, okay, no, that's a fair. Yeah, I see your point there. Okay,
That's what I'm
GHO.
saying about affectation. So if I was talking
No,
about a woman, it would be a woman, no women.
Yeah, but no, I mean that's a very fair point actually, Peter. But that's the point of that whole excellent there is exactly that. You know, is how many different ways is a two-letter combination TH pronounced in English?
Yeah,
tough, flu. It's as you're saying, it's the different. It's the different pronunciations of the same thing. It's the way the languages work.
Learning to write was a tough one for me.
But why they reckon that if you learn English,
TUFF, tough.
Exactly. I remember Tough Boots.
I don't
Used to be a shoe company. Yeah. But no, that's interesting. And one interesting, I think, is that the language works that way. And the other thing is that one of the reasons why most modern languages look odd is that they were developed. Every language we speak now was developed before most people could read and write.
Mm-hmm.
So even though we said the same word, even though we different pronounce the same word, even if it's the same word, you might spell a word differently. And when it gets written down, that's when that is when that word is spelled that way. Until you actually get widespread writing, how you spell a word is not necessarily the same. You said, I mean, some people might well spell women WIMIN because that's how it sounds if it's pronounced women.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that's the point. I mean,
yeah, exactly,
yeah.
But like as we're aware, especially with English, the language changes
Right.
gradually. Even in a generation, it can change.
Well, it's one of the reasons that English and French, for example, don't look like what they sound like, because they have both languages have really retained a lot of the way things used to be pronounced, like knife or night or brew.
Or iron brew. It used to be IRONBREW.
Okay.
I didn't know
they
that.
come round and says people may get confused and think you actually have brewed iron in your drink.
Because people are stupid.
They went, really? So they changed the name to Iron Brew, IRNBRU, because it's not iron and it's not brewed. But that's basically why they had to change the name. It's because people might get confused and think it's got iron in it and it's been brewed. Really, a soft drink name, people think there's iron in it. Fair enough. We used to say made in Scotland.
Stupid. Let's face it, people are stupid.
But
there was a lawsuit.
Their advertisement for it was made in Scotland from girders.
Yeah.
There was a lawsuit. Some idiot filed a lawsuit in the US about Fruit Loops, saying they don't have fruit in them. And I'm like, the fact that it's spelled FROOT is not a giveaway?
Come on, you look at some of the things that people get away with suing companies for.
People are idiots.
A guy buys a Winnebago, drives it down the road, presses the cruise control and goes through the back, makes himself
I know,
coffee,
I heard about that.
and it crashes, and he says, but it said cruise control, and they had to rewrite all the books and say, does not mean drives itself.
Right.
Oh, yeah. The fact that they actually allowed an idiot to get money for doing that.
I know.
That's the point.
Well, luckily,
anybody that does a stupid thing like that and somebody allows it, they should be the ones, right? See all you ones there actually think he should get millions. It's coming out of your pocket. Pay him.
Well, luckily, the guy who tried to sue for Fruit Loops did have the case thrown out, because the judge basically did say, the fact that it's spelled FROOT should have been a giveaway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was good.
Did the guy who sued for Fruit Loops later go to become an astronaut and go into space?
No, why?
Big Bang Theory. It was Howard Wolowitz, because it was known as Fruit Loops.
I think somebody else tried to sue for crunch berries not being actual berries.
Yeah, it's the fact is people allow them to go so far. To me, it'd be a case of you're getting charged because you know that is a waste of time. Give me money, because people had to actually read that and you have to pay for it. It's just to me, the fact that people allow it to go even any further than somebody's written a letter isn't that stupid. They should be two guys chatting at the door. Here, I've got a wee jacket and it buttons up the back for you. Come with me a wee minute. We've got a nice wee room in there. It's all padded and everything. People actually being allowed to do it without actually being known as they're mental. And that's the problem. It's like the girl who went into McDonald's, asked for an extra hot coffee, and then she put it between her knees and crashed her car and burnt her legs and sued McDonald's. And that's why all the cups they've got caution hot. on
she
it.
did get like second-degree burns.
But it's her fault. She
I agree with you. I agree with you. I don't do personal injury.
Yeah, but it's not McDonald's fault. She's stupid. And the fact that she was allowed to sue them and won the case, to me,
And
it says that stupidity is being rewarded, so people are just going to put stupid cases. That's why you get all the criminals who've got nothing better to do. They're in, they read up books, and then they just sign a lot, basically put a lot of cases forward because they've got nothing better to do, and it's, you never know, they might get some out of it. It's things like that. Over here, over there, it makes no difference. To me, anybody that does something like that, that girl should have been laughed out of court and actually basically just be stigma. This girl, see here, she's that stupid. She asked for hot coffee, and then she was surprised that burnt her when she crashed and had it.
Yeah, she put it between her legs. I mean, she sat there in the car, put it between her legs. I was like, what would possess you?
She should have sued McDonald's. She should have sued the school she went to for not teaching her what the hell the word art means.
She was actually an older woman, not a young girl.
It was. It was an older woman. But that's what I'm saying. It's the fact that
people have no. Remember, common sense ain't common.
Yeah, and the fact is, it got through a court case, and not one person turned around and says, "This is a load of bull." She asked for the hot coffee, so she knew it was boiling hot because she asked for it extra hot. She was the one that put it in her leg, and she was the one that crashed her car. So how is that McDonald's fault? And they had to change all their mugs. Everybody had to change their mugs because of one stupid woman.
Hey, there's people now who are suing. Like, for example, if you go to a National Football League football game, and if you drink too much, the company that runs the concessions will be sued.
And that's because people have allowed it, and because it's been allowed. Yeah, because it's been allowed, that's what I'm saying. It's the fact is people allow it to go through. There should be people turning around and saying, see you, nutcase, waste of time, you're the one that's paying for it.
Well, one good thing here in Florida is that they're trying to get rid of a lot of these frivolous lawsuits.
Yeah. They basically, anybody that puts a frivolous lawsuit should be the one that's actually penalised.
Yeah.
And I don't have an issue if somebody's get in a car and it's basically there's a seatbelt, and the seatbelt, you put it on, clip, and it falls apart, and you have an accident and it maybe cuts into you. That is somebody's not done testing. That is different. That's not somebody putting a frivolous lawsuit. But if somebody goes in, doesn't put the seatbelt on, and crashes their car and complains because there was not a sign on the window saying "Don't forget to fasten your seatbelt," that's not the car's fault. If people get into a car and forget to do something, it's not the person who built.
If they're around about 40 years old, it's their fault because they should have been taught that when they learn to drive.
But the thing is, even if they didn't, even if it's somebody that's 70-year-old and they get maybe before it's common sense. I don't like wearing seatbelts when I'm sitting in the back. But if I was in a crash and I got hurt because I wasn't wearing a seatbelt, it's my fault. No, the person.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's like it's like this whole thing with Prince Harry trying to blame the press for his mother's death. Yeah. Why doesn't he blame the fact that she was being driven by somebody who was 4 sheets to the wind, and that she wasn't wearing a seatbelt?
I see. There's parts of that I completely agree with. There is still people saying that blaming him for being drunk when was he drunk because they don't know, and it's basically he was had an accident. So when they interviewed him afterwards, he'd been in an accident. Was he just woozy because he maybe had a head injury? But the fact is, all these paparazzi, the fact that they were chasing and they know it's you. I agree to certain things, like you've got these ones that somebody says he's got a picture of me and he was stepping out the shower. Well, I was actually 2 miles away and I had a really strong camera and I was overlooking your house and I saw you walking past, so it's your fault for walking past. No, it's your fault for standing with a camera that I can't walk around in my own property without you spying on me. So I think the media have got a lot to do with that, because
Well, the media suck
especially
anyway.
but I think things like them deliberately going right up to the car and the guys basically they're pulling in front of them, trying to slow them down so they can get better pictures, and they're basically just trying to get away. So there's aspects of that to both sides, I think. But him saying it was the media's fault, yes, but there's also the other side of it. The guy should have just turned around and says, we actually need outriders. Just get somebody to keep them away. So have another car to keep them out of the way. So
there was an episode of Lucifer, I think it was, where the thing revolved around what?
Yeah, I heard about that one. About the myth about the woman's the stealing a frozen chicken, then collapsing outside.
But
by a bus stop because she put it under her hat and she got it froze her brain.
Didn't
there is urban legends out there that
no, I'm trying to think that wasn't there a scientist? Way back, not modern, way back. Who did manage to do something to refrigeration, and he did that, and he froze a chicken under it or something like that. That's ringing a vague bell about someone who, from whole history of stupid deaths, probably, but
I don't know.
But,
I had heard of that one, but to me, the fact that it's under a hat is an urban legend, because it must be a very, very small chicken. Otherwise, you get a chicken and your hat's sitting away up here, and people don't notice it. So I think that is an urban legend, that one. So
but no, I'll have to check that out. I'm sure it was one where someone who was someone like Francis Bacon was something
bacon.
Exactly, something to do with creating something to do with freezing or something like that. I wish I could remember what it was.
No idea.
Look it up now.
Meant to say at the beginning, I'm aiming to be finished about 10:30 tonight. So just meant to say up front, because I've got a busy day tomorrow. So I've got a busier day tomorrow than I had today, and I had a busy day today. So I've got 3 places to go to, and 2 of them I really, really need to make sure I'm on time. So I've got to make sure I've get a good sleep. Getting old and I can't get up, but I've literally got a busy day tomorrow, so I need to actually make sure I'm in my bed.
Tomorrow, I'm hoping to make it in time for the B movie show, but I am going to an escape room tomorrow.
Oh, very good. My wife
I've never been to one.
I've been to 2, and I've got the 2 where up there. One we got out 10 minutes before, and the other one we got about 3 seconds before. But I think they added an extra 5 minutes because we were so close to the end. They basically added an extra 5 minutes, and we made it with a couple of seconds to go, but we were already 5 minutes over. But my wife's done one, and she didn't like it. She just thought it was meh. She didn't understand half the stuff she was doing.
I was right. 1626. Francis Bacon dies of pneumonia at Highgate outside London. An influential account of the circumstances given by John Orwell's Brief Lives has him journeying to Highgate through the snow with the king's physician when he's suddenly inspired by the prospect of using snow to preserve some meat. They were resolved that they would experiment presently. They alighted out of the coach and went into a poor woman's house at the bottom of Highgate Hill and bought a fowl, and the woman made the woman extend, not quite sure what that is. After stuffing the fowl with snow, Bacon contracted a fatal case of pneumonia. Some people, including Aubrey, consider these 2 contiguous, possibly coincidental events as related and causative of his death.
Yeah.
And you would have heard that somewhere.
And else it's one of those ones, it's an urban legend because he died of pneumonia, and somebody says, he did that when he was stuffing a chicken.
Yeah, but the thing that makes that is the date 1626. It's not modern when you would think you would know you have an idea of frozen food. That's the thing that makes me. No. But I said I knew I'd heard that somewhere and I couldn't think what it was. But so again, that may have been what.
But preservation of food
what
has always
inspired Peter did. Yeah.
Yeah, but so preservation of food's always been either it's in using snow or even it's been salt.
Yeah, it
and
was
stuff
usually
like that,
salted.
so,
Yeah.
Yeah, so the
Did
idea of preservation.
Did you see that, Kelly? All I can say is I hope you don't have the. I hope you don't have the Big Bang Theory escape room experience, where after 5 minutes you sold everything and you got the guy saying, "No refunds, no refunds," because they've sold all the clues.
Yeah, well, we did it with 10 minutes to go the first time we did it, so we actually did thingy. Yeah, it was nice and warm today up here. There was a bit of spit, but nothing major. But accordingly, it said it was going to thunder and lightning the whole day, and it didn't. It just basically a wee bit of drizzle.
Very, very frightening.
It rained more in the car when we were in the car than it did when we were out of the car. When we were out of the car, it's just a wee bit. I actually took my fleece off and I was walking about like that, even with the bit of rain we had. It was still warm. So,
yeah, it's very, very frightening Scaramouche for that thunder and lightning.
I'm going nowhere with that one. Nowhere with that one.
Sorry, I have not what I do, but that literally just came to mind as you said that. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, it's not exactly an uncommon phrase.
I like the Baron Knights version of it.
Oh, it's a long time since I listened to the Baron Knights.
Yeah. Baron Knights used to do some great stuff. So they did things like, "Mama, I just killed a man. I sat upon his head, ate a donut, then he's dead. Oh, Mama, I'm so
What's the
overweight."
expression for that when you hear songs wrong?
I don't know. And there is one.
But there's a special phrase for it, and I can't remember what it is.
Yeah.
There's a
Not spoonerisms, but it's close.
Yeah, but Baron Knights
maybe malapropism, where you get was Mrs. Malaprop was a character in a play.
Right.
He was getting things wrong. One of I don't know if that's one of the ones. One of the ones famous quote is like,
yeah,
prostate. Prostate.
Called mondegreen. A mondegreen is a mishearing or misinterpretation of a phrase in a way that gives it a new meaning.
Yeah, because I think a malapropism is more a case of not necessarily hearing on it, literally picking up the wrong word rather than mishearing. So you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
There's a commercial for something here, and I don't remember what it's for, but they have Rocket Man playing in the background and people singing the words wrong, like something about provolone or cologne or whatever, and it's really funny.
I think Jasper Carrot did a sketch about them. I can't think what one it was now.
Well, remember in Bohemian Rhapsody, I always thought instead of devil put aside for, we always thought it was devil had a sidecar.
Devil, who was it? Jasper Carrot. Devil had a sideboard.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the Baron Knights
Devil had a sidecar
and actually just changed them slightly.
Yeah.
But as I was saying, it was Mama, I'm so overweight that when I walk, I leave it all behind. And Scaramouche, and instead of that, it was marzipan and icing, cream cakes and ice cream. And stuff like that. So basically, they did the whole one about basically somebody overweight killing a man. Mama, I just killed a man. I sat upon his head.
They used to do pastiches or parodies or however you care to put it. I mean, the other one I remember was the Boy Scouts out camping. It's what was it? I can't remember what it was. I think it was someone's two coloured girls. I say it because that's come on then. Boy Scouts out camping. I can just about remember the tune, but I can't remember what it was. But it was again. It was a a hit song of the time, and they
Yeah,
took it.
just checking out the Barren Nights on
Yeah.
YouTube, you'll probably
Yeah.
find them. They
Yeah.
did some really good
Oh yeah,
stuff. They
there's
used to take
websites
some really
devoted
big
to people
hits and actually
mishearing
just
lyrics.
twist it.
Well, it's like
Yeah.
in oh God, I know the one with Bohemian Rhapsody is famous, but then of course there's the hymn "Gladly the Cross-Eyed Bear," which becomes "Gladly the Cross-Eyed Bear."
Any relation to Clarence the Cross-Eyed Lion
Could be. I don't know. That's a
from
good question.
Daktari?
I
Yeah, no,
remember that.
yeah.
I remember Daktari. It was a fun program.
I remember that show. Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, okay,
No.
I didn't know that because we don't get Nevermind the Buzzcocks, Peter. I can watch it if I do a YouTube search for it, but I've never actually seen it. The panel
Yeah.
shows I do make a point to watch are
I
QI
never really enjoyed that. Never mind the Buzzcocks. I don't know. It
and
was just one of those things.
Would I Lie to You? Would I Lie to You is hilarious.
Yeah, that's the one with Mitchell, David Mitchell.
Yeah, David Mitchell and Rob Brydon and oh God, what's his name? Lee Mack.
Yeah, Lee Mack.
Who was in the only episode of Jodie era Who that was tolerable.
Lee Mack's Not Going Out was another good show of his.
I've never seen that.
Basically, it was Lee Mack's. I've got it in my collection. I think he basically starts off as just. Was it Not Going Out? I think it was him and his wife. I don't know if it was his wife, but see Tim. Who was the comedian who used to do? He was in the World Book of Records for doing
Tim Vine.
Tim Vine. So Tim
Jerry
Vine was
Vine's funny, yeah.
so Lee Mack and Tim Vine were in it. They played friends, and then obviously Lee Mack. It was all about the husband that didn't like going out. So it was, and it's called Not Going Out. It's just because the fact they were always too busy, they never went out, and or else he would always end up in the pub with Tim Vine, his pal, but he never went out, and it's. So there was a few. I think the last season was not very good because married with kids and stuff like that. And it just.
Have any of you seen the Greg Davis show, The Cleaner?
No.
I was never a big fan of Bo Selector, I was never a big fan of Bo Selector or Craig Davis.
He's fun. He's good as King Hydroflax in the Husbands of River song. I was just curious because BritBox has it and I haven't watched it and I didn't know if it was worth watching.
Yeah.
I would have thought there was only one barely tolerable episode of Jodie Who, and that's the last one when she regenerates. Well, because she's got some real doctors in it and she regenerates.
Right, but before I saw that, Kerblam was the least offensive.
I can honestly say I've never seen one. Not even a.
Well, the only reason I watched Kerblam is because Lee Mack was in it.
I've never even watched one. Basically, I stopped watching.
I heard it was a rip-off of Amazon, so I wanted to see it.
I was going to say, yeah, was that the one? You can do these things. I can't actually remember most of the stories, the ones that I did see.
Well, it started out when they're in the TARDIS, and Jodie gets a package, and there's a fez in it. And the package is...
That's the point at which the writer should be shot.
Well, agreed. I mean, I thought...
In fact, no, the writer should be shot and it's not.
Stupid, but Jodie and the fez is even stupider. But anyway, the point is, until Power of the Doctor, it was the least offensive episode I'd seen. And Power of the Doctor was pretty awful, too. I mean, that whole scene with the Master dancing to Rasputin, I mean, that was just ridiculous.
I have heard of that.
Are you a Shriner? You're a Shriner.
No.
Oh.
I'm a.
You're not Turkish.
Son of the Desert.
Oh, okay.
Right,
Not Tommy Cooper then.
No, that's basically. I want to get the one with the Son of the Desert thing me there. I've just not got around to it yet. But I had this. I was given this when one of my friends knew I'd actually joined the Sons of the Desert, got me the Fez. But because it's not the right one, I started putting all the pins on it. So it's my pin hat. Because I'm a pinhead. That's a Terry Pratchett joke, by the way.
Okay.
You definitely look like Terry Pratchett.
Which reminds me,
there.
the Omen 2 starts soon.
What's that soon?
Omen. The Omen, Good Omens,
Good Omens 2.
Yeah, see, the Good Omens one the way it was and it finished. It should have just stopped here. They're now making stuff up, thinking they can do as good as Terry Pratchett.
I know, but I'm still going to watch it because it still has Michael Sheen and David Tennant.
But the problem is, it's the same as in they buy a movie or a book series and then think, I can do better than the book that's popular, and then they completely destroy it. And I think this is that one.
Because originally Neil Gaiman didn't want to do it because he said, no, this is it. That's where it ends. We wrote the book. That's where it ends. But people were just clamoring for it.
Yeah, and somebody gave him enough money for him to say, principles don't mean anything to me anymore. And that's basically it. Have you got principles? Yes. Have you still got principles? Yes. Have you still got principles? No. Thank you very much. I'll take that and walk away and don't care.
Well, the thing that is, as I understand it, it's actually written from notes that Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman actually had. So it does have.
No, you look at Brandon Sanderson. He finished his books based on notes from Robert Jordan and his wife, who was the editor. And his books, I think, basically went nowhere. They went nowhere fast. He was meant to have one book, and then they suddenly turned it into 3 and added new races and characters that we'd never even seen in the previous 8 books.
Yeah,
he had all those books, and yet he had to add his own stuff in. To me, the way the Wheel of Time ended the books, I've only read his books once. They were just to finish the series, and truthfully, don't even own them. I basically didn't even purchase the hard copies because I had an Audible where it had all Robert Jordan's. Now I don't have any of them. I gave them all away because of the Wheel of Time TV show, because they decided they could do better as well.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, it just because they've got the original doesn't necessarily mean, but at least it's not like Game of Thrones, where they proverbially made about half the series out of complete whole cloth because the literally there was no source material for it.
Well, that's another thing as well. Their fault. They basically they had to finish it because they basically bought a book series that was popular but hadn't been finished. They're fully responsible for doing a stupid thing like that. And then if they turn around and people say, oh, he's changed it in the books because it was different in the TV show. Well, that's your fault because he didn't finish the books, which I doubt he's ever going to finish anyway.
But
going postal, I liked.
Don't know it. I just know the expression.
Postal,
I don't know it.
Basically, you had the Hogfather, Going Postal, The Colour of Magic. They were the 3. I've got them. I love them. Going Postal had coupling actor. He played Jeff. Richard Cole.
Don't know. I never saw coupling.
Yeah, he played Moist Von Litwick, and it was good. They basically, obviously, the book was far superior, but considering it was the same idea as The Colour of Magic, where they had one of the hobbits, Sam Ganges. Who played Sam?
I can picture the guy. My brain switched off. I know you mean. He played Two Flower.
Yeah, he played Two Flower, and he was good. That was good because you had good old Dell. point.
I must admit,
And Weird Peter, I've got, believe it or not, I've got Weird Sisters still on video somewhere down there. I've
There
got
was-
Weird Sisters in video. Yeah, I
there was
had
a
it.
Weird
That
Sisters of
long.
animation. There's also, I think they also did soul music as animation.
Soul music I've got, but I see I didn't have that bit. I've got soul music. I've got Weird Sisters. I've got Weird Sisters. I've had that since it was out in video. I still got it somewhere. But yeah, I like the animation because, especially Weird Sisters, because you had Nanny Og, you had this wee, very short, very wide nanny, and it worked because you wouldn't have been able to do that in a live action one because
You
couldn't have had that. You couldn't have had a Grot Bags. Remember the Grot Bags witch? She would have worked as a Nanny Og type because she was basically deliberately made to look heavier because she was meant to be like that.
Well, the thing is, I mean, the whole thing. One of the reasons why the witches worked was that Terry Pratchett was working off
Stereotypes.
Well, not just a stereotype, but he
He
was
took the stereotype
he was
of
working
the
off.
tall, gaunt one, the short,
was-
fat one, and then the virgin one, and then he basically played with them and twisted them around.
Well, he's working off the maiden mother crone thing from paganism, specifically from Wicca. Which
Yeah,
is
but if
what,
you look
which
at
amongst other
most,
things is why when Magrat gets married, she can no longer be.
and yeah,
she,
and
she can no longer
Masquerade,
be a maiden.
and that was Masquerade when they brought in Agnes. Agnes
Yeah.
Nitt. But yeah, but yes, they did that. But if you look at a lot of movie adaptations or story adaptations of the witch, you've got one of three, and it's usually the crone, the mother, or the maiden.
Yeah.
So basically, even though he brought three of them in because of that, you look at a lot of ones. You've always got your Granny Weatherwax, the crone.
Yep.
You've got
Yeah.
Nanny Og, the mother. Even though she basically everybody was scared of her, even though she was such a nice woman.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, it was. Again, it was so so. I mean, when you can come up with a character who has the powers of the anthropomorphization of death,
Yeah.
because her father was adopted by death, so she gets death's powers by adoption. Yes, okay. You know you're dealing with someone with a very, very warped and fantastic mind. Good question. I don't think they dare touch him.
I mean, I know that the new Good Omens has nothing to do with Pratchett, but I'm still going to watch it.
Well,
The problem is it's got nothing to do with Pratchett. But how can it have nothing to do with Pratchett if who wrote it?
What I meant is that he didn't write the new one.
Yeah, exactly.
Neil Gaiman wrote the new one.
No matter
and I like Neil Gaiman.
No matter what, see if it turns out to be the biggest load of crap, they'll not think Neil Gaiman's Good Omens. They'll think Pratchett's Good Omens.
Yeah, I loved the book. I absolutely loved the book.
I loved the book. Yeah.
And I liked the series. I read the book first. I made sure to read it before I saw the series, and I liked the series. And yeah, I'm going to watch the new one.
I like.
I'm going to watch it.
I like this series. Some of the casting choices I thought were a little bit current day, but old and current day, but okay, fair enough.
See, some of the casting choices. Anytime I saw them, I thought they got the actor and decided what part they would put them in. They didn't actually have the part, and the actor fitted it. So they didn't say, right, we need this character. We need a Crowley. Who do we get as Crowley? They didn't. They had David Tennant. So where will we put him?
Yeah, I think
that's what a lot of the casting felt like. They got people to sign up, good actors and thought, right, we've got them. So it'd be like an amateur dramatic. We've got 6 people. You can play him. But I prefer the villain. It doesn't matter. You play him. You play him. You play him. It's not a case of, right, let's hear you reading for each character. Yeah, you're definitely the best one. It's not. It's that's how it felt, as if they'd taken the actor and thought, right, where can we put him in? We'll put him in there because he needs to be one of the 2 main characters. So he has to be there. Not a case of he might have actually been a good back character, and it might have somebody else might have felt it, but because they've got the 2 characters. They've got the 2 actors. They have to fit them into the 2 places. So that's what I felt.
Well, I know they made up different characters that weren't in the book.
They always do that because sometimes I can understand it because sometimes you may have 5 wee characters, one here, one there, and they give something happening. But they don't want to cast 5 different people to do that, so they have one character who pops in and out and does it. So yeah, they sometimes combine characters and make a new character. I can understand it to an extent.
Well,
excuse the ambient noise. We've got thunderstorm going over here.
Okay. So they did that in one of the most obvious ones that I can think of. They did is Starship Troopers, where they rewrote most of the characters. But they took they took 2 characters and combined them into one. Yeah. The only thing about that is that I can forgive them is they had Michael Ironside play him, so I can forgive them for that just for having Michael Ironside. But
it's the same idea. They had rewritten the story and then they got people for the part.
Yeah, I
mean, they may have actually got Michael Ironside, but what part do we have him? They probably want him as a.
I don't know if they did or not. I mean, this was going this.
But it may even if you look at it, it feels as if he got the part because it was written for him or whatever. But having characters where you think they've just got an actor, and thought, we'll put him in there because he has to be one of the 2 main characters. It doesn't matter if he's the best fit, or he has to be one of the background characters, which is a second tier from the main characters. So he has to fit because you've got a really good character, but he's only got 2 lines. Oh, well, we can't have him because that's a big actor. So he has to up here. He has to have at least 20 lines. So we'll put him in as that character, and it might not work. That's what it felt like. It's almost like a case of the actor.
It depends. Sometimes, I mean, do you say, okay, well, who have we got? I mean, if you've got, I think it depends. You can say, I remember when they were doing, I remember seeing the behind the scenes of the reboot of Battlestar Galactica, and I remember them were talking about the casting and said who were they going to get to play President Roslin. And they're saying, well, what sort of actor would fit this? Why don't we get a Mary McDonald type? Why don't we ask the Mary McDonald herself, and Mary McDonald signed on to play the character? So I can see it. So, okay, so we've got this. I can see them saying, okay, we've got a character. We've got this sort of character. Who can we get? Who we want to play it? Okay, well, we've got someone signed on. What I can see them saying, what's the best fit for this character? But it's when you've got an established character. So when you've got something that you're making.
Yeah, I didn't think Crowley worked. David Tennant is a good actor, and he.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was a great Crowley.
No, compared to the book Crowley to me was completely different.
Well,
I wanted a Gomez Adams type character. You imagine John Aston's Gomez Adams character.
Sean Astin, that's who it was.
Yeah, John Astin was great.
No, Sean Astin was too flower. That's it. You're saying that.
John Astin, so John Astin. You imagine him as Crowley. You imagine his look as Crowley.
Yeah.
I still like David Tennant with the look.
I'm not saying David Tennant, but to me, when I look at it, it's it's a case of they've got the actor and they've made the character look like the actor, whereas the actor needs to look like the character they're playing rather than the opposite. They're changing it to, and that's what I'm saying.
I read the book first, and when I saw the movie, the series, I liked David Tennant. I thought he brought a lot of good attributes to the character.
Maybe, but as when I saw it, I thought, not Crowley.
Okay, well, different strokes for different folks.
But it's one of those things, because when you're reading it up here, the book tells you about the character, and up here the artwork's going, and it's how you picture it. That's why a lot of the times when somebody will say things like, I really liked it, but so and so, sometimes I think, well, I actually think they're different. But when it came down to it, as long as it was good, and David Tennant was good in it, but to me, it was a case of they had the actor and they had to fit it in.
Right. Well, he didn't match your vision of the character.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. So basically,
who do you think should have played Aziraphale?
Say again?
Who should have played Aziraphale?
Stephen Fry.
Really?
Ooh, that's an interesting idea.
Because he just, when I was reading the book and they were talking about it, he just seemed this very, it just Stephen Fry's sort of, not so much his humour, but just his presence seemed to actually fit in that. It's almost, you can just imagine Stephen Fry enjoying himself and doesn't really want to get dragged back in and doesn't want, and he'll do a wee bit here and just to actually so he can relax and sit in and continue enjoying what he's doing on Earth.
I love Stephen Fry so much. When it's funny, I hadn't read any P.G. Wodehouse when I first saw Jeeves and Wooster. But now that I've seen Jeeves and Wooster, nobody else
did it as well. Just as the dumb, he plays a typical George.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's probably where they got the idea for him playing George from. But no, ever since I've seen Jeeves and Wooster, and I've read a bunch of the books, nobody else could play Jeeves and Wooster.
I've seen a few other people playing it, and Fry and Laurie are
perfect.
They're perfect for it. But it's just that type of character is what I saw as Aziraphale. But it's the same idea. It's not as if I was going to say Toby Jones, but it's not. It's
definitely not Toby Jones.
I know, but I can't even remember who played Aziraphale. But I thought he actually
Michael Sheen.
Yeah, Michael Sheen.
Michael Sheen. So I thought he played it quite well, but it was the same idea in my head that it didn't match what I had pictured. So that's
maybe it's because I read the book in anticipation of seeing the series.
So you already knew who was going to be in it. So
I knew who'd been
you've
cast.
Already pitched her.
I mean, I didn't know about John Hamm or Jack Whitehall, any of the minor characters. All I knew was Tennant and Sheen. So when I read the book, I did have Tennant and Sheen in my brain. I'll grant you that. But speaking of Tennant and Sheen, I loved Staged.
Yeah. Whereas I had basically read it well before, and
yeah, right. No, I get it. I get it completely.
But that's the thing. Even if you had read it before, you would have still been completely different images of your characters. Look at Richard Sharp and Harper from Sharp's Regiment, Sharp's whatever.
Yeah, apparently, Sean Bean was not the first person they thought of to play Sharp.
Do you know who should have played Sharp?
Who?
See the one that played Harper? That was my vision of Sharp. Somebody like that.
My memory. Who played Harper?
I can't remember his name.
Well, let me look this up.
But basically, Sean Bean, just because when I was reading the book.
Oh yes, Irishman, Dara O'Malley. I can see that.
When I'd been reading the books when I was doing data input, 1995 was the first time I got them on tape So I had my thing me in, and I would turn the tape over, and Paul Gabanara was reading it, and he basically put every character had their own voice. He was great. But when I was reading it, you had to picture the description of Sharp. Sharp was like 6'2", dark hair, built what you would see as Harper. Just take Harper and give him a straighter hair. That's what the picture of it was. And then the Harper character wasn't necessarily taller. It was just built like a brick shit house. So you could have got a rock type, somebody built like that to play the Harper character. It didn't necessarily need to be taller. He just built like a brick.
I haven't read any of the books, so
I read the books.
I
I started on the books. I got the books when I did data input, because I used to go to the library and get audiobooks. And
Right.
Sharp's Regiment was the first of his, and it was the first book in the series, and I loved it. And I started
Who read it?
getting all of them. Paul Gamarara.
Love him.
He is really good, because each of the characters had their own voices. Harper,
Right.
Hagman, and everyone he didn't need to say, and Hagman said he would just say this at the light, and that was it. You knew who it was.
Well, I read the first Horatio Hornblower before I saw the series. And I admit, I did not see Ioan Griffith as Horatio Hornblower. I just didn't. But I thought he did a good job.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Once they've established the character on the TV, you can go separate. They're different media, so yeah, they're okay to be different portrays of the character. I'm okay with that. That's why there's certain movies I just turn around and say, never watch that movie again. And I think it's the biggest load of crap, but it's not destroying my love of the book. However, there's other ones that come in and say, I can't actually even listen to the audiobook, because every time they talk about that character, I see that. So that destroyed my... So there's ones that are, even if they're bad, they don't destroy the love of the book. There's other ones that when they actually do it, and it's that bad that that's all you can see in there, then that destroys your love of the book.
No, I understand what you're saying. And it's funny because 99% of the time, the series is better. I mean, the book is better than the adaptation.
Yeah, there's very few.
There's so few adaptations that I prefer to the book. One of them is North and South. Thought the book was tedious.
I've got that. North and South.
No, I'm not talking the one about the U.S. Civil War. I'm talking about the Elizabeth Gaskell book. Which was tedious with a capital T.
Yeah, the U.S. Civil War one. I remember watching it because my mother loved it.
Right. I like that.
Multiple times.
Yeah, I've never actually seen the whole thing. I admit it.
I liked North. I like North and South. I saw the first couple. The third one I wasn't that impressed with when they serialized the third book. But I've never read the book.
Yeah, I've never seen the whole series. So I live here in the States, and I live near a Civil War plantation house.
Wow. But I mean, it's the
thing there's a historic site near here that the left hasn't managed to close.
Wow.
I know. Go figure.
But then you're in Florida, so you know you got to.
This is true. We are in Florida, except we did have a memorial to the Southern dead in front of our courthouse, and they were forced to remove it and bring it to the federal government historic site.
Wow.
So yeah.
I know part of it. I know what you're saying. Usually, the weird thing is, I was saying to someone I think on Andy's chat earlier on today. Usually, the book is better than the film or whatever.
Right.
Oddly enough, Starship Troopers is a film where I really like the film. I like a lot of the Starship Troopers films. I don't have to bother reading the book anymore
even,
because I've read the book so much. But
yeah.
there's that much of a difference. Even though I can read and I can see exactly what the source material is, that's actually good enough that I can actually separate the two. Even though, well, partly because I can sit back and laugh at Paul Verhoeven doing exactly the opposite of what he thought he was doing. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make an anti-war movie, and in the end, that ends up making a movie because he couldn't be bothered to read the book. He thought the book was boring and never got beyond the first chapter. So had someone else reading, apparently.
No matter how good that movie is, the fact that he said that about the book, he's meant to be filming. Somebody should have turned around and say, "You out." That's the problem with it. It turned out it's a good movie. I love Starship Troopers. I do, but if I was listening to and if I was sitting there going, right, here's the money for the book. What do you think about moving that in? Well, I think it's boring. I couldn't get by the first page. Thank you. Take my money back. Next, please.
Why are you buying?
Because why would you go with someone you paid money for that book and he says, "Oh, it's boring"? Then why the hell would I want him to adapt it?
He's exactly. I mean, he thought he was going to make a book that was he had fallen for the Starship Troopers fascist bollocks. It's not. Well, no, it's not. I mean, the thing is, I think that's said by people who don't actually understand what fascism is.
Of course, people don't read the thing.
Well, most things today are said by people who don't know what fascism is.
But I will say, I can actually, from my understanding, I can actually see why, if you've read the book, you might come down and say, well, it's certainly very much in favour of the government. It's certainly much in favour of the state. No, I can see where you might come down, but I would say it glorifies service, not the military. It glorifies service. It glorifies putting yourself before everybody else to earn things. As they say. I mean, you look at it.
Because in the book, it's basically service. So be it military, be it civil service, be it other branches of government.
It's putting the state ahead of yourself, and I can see why that might come. Some people might come across that as fascist, but the thing is, it's not, and in some ways it is almost anti-war. In some ways, it's because, I mean, you've got to read the book to understand it. I mean, the most important thing of all is that none of in the book, the only character in the book who actually has the right to vote is Colonel Dubois, because she was in the third film, Peter, yes. Unfortunately, there's only ever one book. Like a friend of mine many, many years ago used to reckon that Heinlein was going to write a second book where Johnny went for Sky Marshal and basically meant he went to naval boot camp and worked his way up through the Navy, which would have been another really interesting. But the thing is, the only person in the book or in the who would have get a vote is Dubois, because he was retired with good service. None of the characters in the book, in the film, no, the military aren't in command, because serving, you have to have done your time to get the vote. You don't have any more power as a soldier than you do as a civilian who has not served. And you see it they say, even in the film, they say it's such a low tax society. You look at Johnny's parents, you can actually understand why Johnny's parents don't want him to serve, even in the film, because they don't need it. The world they live in is so good, is so functional, such good high quality of life that they don't need, as you said, he doesn't need the vote.
Yeah.
You know,
If you've got money, you don't need to vote. But then again, you had
no,
the other
no,
one.
no,
I want
no,
to have
yeah,
children, so
yeah, and that I genuinely don't remember that from being in the book.
I think
I
it was to
don't-
do with the medical. Like if you've served your as a citizen, there's certain things like
Yeah.
your medical paid for you, so you would
Yeah,
have
I'm
to pay
not.
for it
Yeah,
yourself.
I
And if
just
you've
to
not got
say,
the money, it's an issue. Whereas if you have got the money, like Johnny's parents,
I mean,
having kids is not an issue
yeah,
because they can afford.
yeah. I mean, the way I always looked at it was the way it suggests, and certainly from the book, is that the Terran Federation society is so affluent in general that most people are quite happy to get by and get by, live their lives without having to be citizens.
Yeah,
It's a two-tier, so it's a system. It's a system to look at.
the
But
way I
then,
looked at it was citizenship gave you certain rights, like
yeah,
the right to vote, but it might have given you the right for free Medicare, free
yeah.
education. Whereas if you
Again,
didn't, you weren't a citizen, you had to pay for it.
There's an author, an American author named Kurt Schlichter, Schlichter. He was until recently in the U.S. Army Reserves as a lieutenant colonel.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a conservative author and pundit. And he's written a series of nonfiction books about a dystopic version of the U.S. after the national divorce.
wow, that sounds
Yes.
interesting.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There's blue states and red states. The blue states still call themselves the United States of America. Or rather, the red states. The blue states, is the People's Republic of North America. Yeah.
Okay,
And
nothing
no, they have
subtle
not
about that.
joined up with Canada. They've not joined up with Canada, which quite a lot of which would agree with the blue states here.
Yeah,
And it's a really interesting premise. It's scary, but it's a really interesting premise because based on what you guys were just saying, in this universe, in this United States, you can't vote unless you've served in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Now, somebody as old as I am, I can't imagine that they would take my right to vote away from me. But I understand the concept. I understand the concept of literacy tests, even though those were originally used to prevent Black people from voting. I firmly believe that you should know what's going on in your country before you should be allowed to vote.
yeah, I agree. I mean,
Because I know people, I've met people who never heard of Chairman Mao and the Cultural Revolution. So they don't know that that's where we're headed.
Scotland has allowed 16-year-olds to vote.
That's disgusting. 16-year-olds are doing Tide Pods.
Yeah, do you know why they wanted the
Should not be allowed
16-year-olds
to
to vote? Because the 16-year-olds and younger vote for what they want them to vote for.
Well, same here. Democrats want 16-year-olds to vote, but luckily, that would require a constitutional amendment, which ain't gonna happen.
Well, Scotland just changed it anyway. They just didn't care.
Well, you don't have to do that. You don't have to go jump through the same hoops that we do.
Yeah.
Because here, voting age is part of the U.S. Constitution. So back in the 60s, in order to change it to 18, they had to actually go through the constitutional amendment process. And if you change it to 16, you have to do, it's a big deal. It has to be 2/3 of the states and 3/4, I think it is, of the House and Senate. And there's no way in hell 2/3 of the state legislatures in the United States would go for 16-year-old suffrage. Not happening.
Yeah, it's because they can actually just say to a 16-year-old, don't vote for them because they're bad. They believe this, and that's all they need to say. They don't need to say, "Oh, we're going to do is give you better. We're going to improve the education." We'll say, "But we'll pay for it." Oh, good, you're giving me it for nothing. Excellent, you can have my vote. that basically, here's a Tide Pod.
Yeah. Right, exactly. These are people who swallowed Tide Pods, and we want them to be able to make important decisions. I don't frickin' think so.
Hence the reason why I'm looking for Smut. Come on, Smut.
Who's Smut?
Smut. Sweet Meteor of Death.
Oh, got it. Because I thought you were talking like, oh God, cackling Kamala.
No, Smut.
Apparently, she's come out with another gem.
Has
As
she
a
come up-
woman, I am embarrassed.
In all fairness, come on, you've no actually. There's both sides of the pond.
There's embarrassments on both sides of the pond. Like the First Minister of Scotland is an embarrassment.
What one? The old one or the new one?
Both of them. Both of them. The old one got arrested, and the new one hates his country.
Yeah, he basically hates everybody that's in his country. But that's deliberately. Why did they actually choose someone who basically says everybody
why
who
is he surprised that Scotland is mostly white?
Oh, he basically is no surprised. He just hates it
because he's a racist.
That's exactly.
Oh, that's a given.
Yeah,
he's like shocked that Scotland is mostly white. You think?
Oh no, but the thing is, he's not shocked that Scotland is mostly white. He's shocked that Scotland is mostly white, but they've not given all the high-powered jobs to non-whites.
Right.
The shite jobs, no problem. It's the same as in America. That they always talk about they need more women and ethnic minorities in the boardroom.
Right.
Okay, but what about all the shit jobs? You're okay with it being predominantly white, or predominantly Hispanic, or predominantly black. You just don't want them. They don't count. It's all the high-paying jobs you think.
My brother is what we refer to as a RINO, Republican in name only. He hated Donald Trump, didn't vote for him. Not like, granted, he lives out, in the People's Republic of California, so his vote doesn't count. He could vote for the dog and nobody would care. In fact, the dog would probably do a better job.
He'd vote for the dog if the dog was waving a blue flag.
Pardon?
He'd vote for the dog if the dog was had a D after its name.
In the U.S., we had what's been called a yellow dog Democrat. It's an expression that means that if a yellow dog were running for office, as a Democrat would vote for them.
Yeah.
I am a yellow dog Republican. And people say, oh, you need to vote for the person, not the party. It's like, well, unfortunately, the policy, I vote for policies. I don't care who you are. I don't care. I mean, like with Trump, I don't care how yes, he's vulgar and he's gross, and I'm not a fan, but I liked his policies. And if he wins the nomination again, I will vote for him again.
See, I'm the opposite. I vote against. Because I think all the politicians around are all the exact same.
Politicians are all awful, except the one I work for, and I adore him.
But the way I look at it is politicians are all the same. They're a lot of them get into it for the right reasons, but they'll, no, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing that. They'll say, oh, but you can claim that in your expenses, or you can claim that in your expenses. They say, can you? No problem. Signed it. They'll say, right, you need to do this. Oh, can it? Well, if you don't, I'll let people know you signed for that on your expenses.
Without giving away too much detail about where I live in Florida, there are people in my law firm who have been judges and in the state house and the state senate and all sorts of elected and officials over the years. Our firm is old. And we've had very prominent people affiliated, judges, all sorts of things. And the ones I know are good people. They really do care about what they're doing.
Yep. But that's what I'm saying. I now vote against people because especially in Scotland, they'll say one thing, and as soon as they get in, they do a completely opposite. So now I use my vote to go against them. I don't care who
I agree.
is running.
I understand completely.
I basically will vote. Like, say, for instance, if you had the choice between the SNP, Labour, and Conservatives. I would basically vote Conservatives to get away from Labour or SNP. However, if there was no Conservative vote, I would vote Independent, even though I knew it was a complete and utter wasted
Way
vote.
back when I voted for the Green
Unless it was a
Party.
green independent, then I would basically go for Labour to get away from the other two. And I think nowadays you don't vote for the people you like, you vote for the people you hate least.
Oh, well, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. I vote for policies. I don't like Donald Trump. I like the policies he enacted when he was president.
You don't have to like the you don't have to like the
No, you
person,
don't have to like the
thing.
person. I'm not voting for
Well, there's
somebody I want to
something
go out for a
we've
beer
looked.
with.
I've said a number of times I think we could do it in this country. The one box we don't have, the box they will never let us have. None of the above. Because at the moment, the only way you've got of saying you're all a bunch of assholes, none of you are going to do any good, is not to vote or to spoil your vote. If you have a box saying none of the above, when they get massive great turnout and they get 20% of the population vote says none of the above, then it's going to make obvious exactly how badly they're doing. Because at the
Colin,
moment,
you forgot one thing. They don't care what you think. So if 90% of the vote says none of the above, they'll just take that 10% and it's the votes that count. They don't care about the rest.
No, that's the point. No, what we're saying is the thing is though that the vote the votes won't count. If you spoke none of the above is will have exactly the same effect electorally as not voting. But if they have to publish at the moment, they can, you look at the way they spin things. Yes, we had 80% of them, even Brexit, 52% of the people voted no. 52% of how many people voted for it? More of the population. I don't know, but more of the population voted in Brexit than voted in almost any general election.
Hey, right? Here more people watch the Super Bowl than vote.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I've almost I haven't. I mean, it's an odd toss up because as we were saying, I thoroughly understand the fact is, and that these days voting, and one of the arguments for saying for the reason that you vote for parties, you don't vote on laws, is that it's complicated. And I was watching load teachers the other day, and they were saying, I think it was like someone said, any law put before Parliament should be one page. If it's more than one page, it should be rejected immediately because no one can read it and understand it.
Somebody here once said something similar. Like we've got hundreds of volumes of books expanding on the 10 Commandments.
Well, I remember there was an episode of The Simpsons where way back when it was good, where Lisa goes to Washington, and I think it was one of them. And there's one bit in there, and I wasn't actually, I hadn't quite understood how your system works today, where they've got a vote coming through, and the bill goes on, everybody's in favour of it, and then someone sticks something else on the end of it, a rider, I think they call it. It becomes I genuinely can't remember what it's called. It becomes the, let's say the support for the financial support for financial support for veterans.
And then they would add things like saying, and the politicians get a 20% pay increase.
Bill. Yeah, exactly.
That happens here all the time. I mean, right now, because remember, we've got the presidential election going on, and my governor, best governor in the country, used to be a member of the House of Representatives. And the people on Trump's team are saying, well, Ron DeSantis voted against such and such. Well, if you dig, you can find out why he voted against such and such.
Yeah.
For example, there was an amendment that did something really awful, or there was, or whatever. but unfortunately, not enough people are going to hear the extenuating circumstances, and they're
Yeah.
just going to hear he voted against X,
Yep.
and because people are stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely do. I say, I mean, I have this really weird thing. At the same time, I can hold in my head the idea that you should have to have that you should have to have prove that you've got some understanding of the situation, so you can have an informed vote.
Right.
And on the other hand, I can also see the Australian system where vote or you're going to be, you're required to vote.
I would rather people who don't know what they're doing not vote, frankly.
Yeah. No, I said, at least, if you bring everybody in to vote, you've got everybody has at least had a saying, can't say, well, I'm not represented.
Well, unfortunately, in the US, I don't know what it's like in the UK, but in the US, we're not required to show identification when you vote. It depends on the state. In my state, when I go to vote, I walk up to the clerk and I present my driver's license.
Yeah.
Which has a magnetic strip on it, like a credit card.
Yeah.
And they run it through the machine and they say, yes, this is, Julie 10128. And they hand me a ballot and I'm allowed to go fill it out and put it in the machine. But states like New York and California, blue states, Democrat-run states,
you just have to
don't require it. So you've got, my father died 2 years ago. I would bet money he still votes in New York. I left New York 15 years ago. I would bet that I still vote in New York.
Yeah. Well, I remember one of my first exposures to the American system was the second book in E. Doc Smith's Lensman series, First Lensman, where a lot of this story is about an election for Earth. It's for America, so it's not. And there's a lot of things where the good guys and the bad guys, and they've got some coming in and going out. Sorry, I just saw Peter's comment and not quite how it happened, but where they're doing and they've got this thing, and one guy's explaining about the bad guy is explaining to his boss, who happens to be off planet, but I don't know, but whatever, about dead votes and on all these sorts of things. And they have, because they have, one of the characters has a there's one of the characters, female leads, with they were actually lead female characters back in the 20s and the 30s when people were writing science fiction. And they come up, and she has this thing called the Voters League. And what they do, basically, they go round a couple of days before the election, and they just go around across the country, and they just get everybody's names where they live.
Right.
And then when people get, when people turn up to vote, if there's someone on this, they challenge it. And obviously, it's written by the
you broke up
guys, so they say the challenge is always win. There's one bit where I know one of the bad guy operatives comes up to one of the good guy operatives and says something about one of the guys that's monitoring, I suppose you'd say, and says, look, let's go for a drink. In other words, he's trying to get him out of the way. And the guy turns and says, well, he's something along the lines of, and I don't know how insane this is regarding American voting. That, well, I can't, but my brother's cousin is standing for a second assistant dog catcher, and I promise I'd stay till the vote goes in. Something ridiculous, down like that. But that was, I don't know how accurate it is these days, but it was certainly really good eye opener for how the system over there works. And they come in. I said they come in and they challenge him, and they challenged all the ringers because they'd got a system that let them do it.
Back in the 1990s, there was a book written by two political science professors at a major university in the U.S. They did it. It was called "Why Politics." Sorry, what Americans know about politics and why it matters. And so you've got two political scientists who did a scientifically based study of U.S. voters. And they came to a particular conclusion. Now, meanwhile, during this similar time period in the mid-90s, a TV network that we have here in the U.S. called C-SPAN, which is like the UK government channel.
I was going to say, yeah, that's the one that does the wire.
Right. It's funded by our cable bills, and they take phone calls and well, they run, all the House of Representatives, all the Senate. They show everything that's going on, attempt to be sunshine. But they have shows where they take phone calls from voters or from, just your average person. Now, the scientific study came up with the conclusion that the more informed you are as a U.S. voter, the more likely it is that you are a white male Republican. The unofficial survey run by C-SPAN, where they just kept track of all their callers, so it's a self-selected group.
Yeah.
Came up with the conclusion that the more informed you are, the more likely it is that you are a white male Republican. So a scientific study and a non-scientific study came up with the exact same conclusion. Now, I am obviously not a male.
In all fairness, if CNN did that, then the only people phoning in wouldn't have necessarily been...
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a self-selected sample.
Yeah.
But the self-selected sample came up with the exact same results as a scientific study that studied hundreds of people from different ethnic groups and different political views. And the more informed you were on the issues, the more likely it is in the United States that you are a white male Republican.
I mean, excuse me, going back to what we were saying earlier on about voting age, and that it's always one thing, isn't it, that the young tend to vote what we might these days call
what did
left.
Churchill say about that?
I'm not sure, but it's the idea is the young vote left, and then as they get more life experience, they tend to move further generally to the right, because they realise that money, they realise that things are going to be paid for. When
they don't have the money, they're constantly wanting somebody else to give them it. But as they earn their own, they want to actually make sure nobody takes
want other people to pay for them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When they're younger, they don't have any money, so they want people to give them it. When they're older, they have money, they don't want people to take it from them to give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
So their voting changes.
Okay, I don't know who said it. I mean, I've heard people who said that it's Churchill, but I don't believe it is. He may have said it, but he might have just been quoting somebody else. But basically,
I was going to make a joke, but you wouldn't actually understand it. Colin would. I'd have went, yes.
If you're not I know who Churchill was, and he was my father's idol.
But over here, there is actually an insurance company called Churchill, and they have a dog, which is a British bulldog. And it's a British bulldog, and it goes.
It's a pump. It was a mock toy dog, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But the quote that's been attributed to him, which we don't believe he actually said, but it makes sense. If you're not a liberal when you're young, you have no heart. When you're not a conservative when you're old, you have no brain. Now, I've been a conservative my whole life, so I guess I've never had a heart. But I'm proud of always having a brain because I believe fully God gave you a heart and God gave you a brain. It is up to you to use both of them the way they were intended.
I actually quite like another one of its supposedly Churchill's quotes, which is that democracy is the worst form of government apart from all the others.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the least bad form of government.
Absolutely.
No, but
Well,
page 8,
in all fairness, I think most Americans probably, especially the ones that constantly say how the voting system is actually bad for their democracy. And considering you don't have a democracy, you have a democratic republic.
Yep.
It shows they don't understand what they're talking about.
Right. People here all the time talk about, oh, our democracy. We don't have a democracy.
Yeah. What gets me is when they say our democracy, what they actually mean is what we want to have.
Theirs.
Ours. Yeah. Well, no, you guys have a republican system. We have an elective oligarchy because we elect the people. In fact, you have a degree as well. You elect the people that we all elect the people to make our laws. We don't vote. There have been 2 democratic votes in this country. One was in 2016, and one was the one that Peter was referring to. And we never actually, to use phrase, we really were never asked. We were never asked if we wanted to go into the common market as it was then. We would take it because I was saying about this on a stream the other day. Because I've got vague memories. I mean, this was what, 75?
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
A long time ago. But I vaguely remember that we were taken into I think it was the common market it was at the time.
Right, that's what they called it then, the common market, as far as I remember.
You've got the common market and the European Free Trade Area, EFTA, which were 2 different things. EFTA was, I think we were in the European Free Trade for a while before the common market. But both of them, it was exactly that. It was a market, it was a trading thing. And the argument that I remember being made, and again, as I say, this was 40 odd years ago, was that, 50 years ago.
It's 48 years ago.
48, yeah. Was that we were, well, yes, Jim, yeah, we have civil servants making the decisions. Yeah, exactly. To be fair, you have to have something a little bit like that because you have to have permanent people who actually do the actual working on.
Yeah, but, Jim the Viking, we have the civil servants making decisions for us too. And there was just a Supreme Court case where the Environmental Protection Agency was sort of had their wrist slapped saying, no, you really can't tell people what to do because you weren't elected.
Well, what we had as
yes, Minister, yes, Prime Minister.
Yep.
That was such a great show.
Yep.
Yes, Minister, and yes, Prime Minister. The fabulous show.
Yeah. But what I understand was the argument that I remember was that by joining the common market, or it might be the EC at the time, it was we had lost trading deals with the Commonwealth. Mm-hmm. In fact, I seem to recall reading somewhere that actually one of the reasons the New Zealanders that we had particularly popular New Zealanders is when we joined the common market, because we had to lose our trade with New Zealand, we completely screwed their sheep industry. But the argument was that we'd lost the trade with the Commonwealth and we swapped the trade that we got with the common market. If we left the common market, we would lose those benefits, but we would not get back the trade with the Commonwealth. So the decision in whenever it was to remain in the common market. Nothing was ever said I mean, this is one of my objections.
Well,
is that
if they
nothing's ever
said we
said
were
about
going to
anything.
join the European Union, people would have went, oh, wait a minute. Common market sounds quite reasonable. It's a
Yeah.
it's a
I mean,
place
that's the thing. That's all it was. That's the only thing we've ever voted on. We've never had any votes on anything since then. I remember, in fact, I wish I could. Years and years ago now, I read one of these sort of techno thriller future history type books, and basically, the only thing I remember of it is that the denouement was that there had been a vote about. I mean, this is 20 years ago, so way before Brexit or anything, where the denouement was that what had happened in here, they discovered that there had been a vote to leave whatever, to leave Europe, whatever it was. As I said, it's completely fictional. But the computers have been programmed to reverse the result because they knew what was going to happen. So the computers had been reserved to take a negative vote because they'd known in advance that we would vote to leave. So that's the ending. I mean, we could go on for ages about it. I mean, what was
but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the horses on it.
Exactly. I mean, we could go on for ages.
Yeah, because we could go on for that. And what do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bounce it right back to the geeky stuff. And
excellent.
Do the
Pick of the week.
And I'm not doing it just because Jim's here. I'm not doing it just because Peter's here. But I was somewhere fun today.
We missed Jim.
And I'm going to actually show you where I was before I give you the second clue. You two know, but the guys in the chat don't. So I'm going to share my screen. And there it's there. So I was here today. So I was. I got myself a wee t-shirt.
Cool. Oh my God. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And I got myself a horse. So yeah, I went to Doon Castle. So I did. So Doon Castle. You can't really see that. And I basically bought a horse. And everybody was saying you have to actually ride back to your car. And I says, no, like me. So yeah, they had 4 t-shirts. They had a black one that says "Nee." I thought quite good. Or they had "No one expects the Spanish Inquisition." I love
that one.
It's not the Holy Grail. The other one was,
but it's not Holy Grail. You're right.
The other one they had was the Ministry of Silly Walks.
Nice.
And then the 4th one they had was "His butter scratched." And I could not resist that one. So basically, the nights that say "Nee" were the first ones I picked up, and then I saw that one. I thought, "Oh, I'm having that."
Now, what part of Scotland is Doon Castle in?
Say again.
What part of Scotland is Doon Castle in?
It's in Perthshire.
Oh, okay.
Basically, we went up to Callander, which is just a small.
So when I stayed in Blair Gowrie all those years ago, I could have gone there.
Well, yeah, it's near a Callander. So, and remember the last time I was talking to Roman and I was saying that the gift shop sells horse, and they're going, no, it's a medieval castle. They sell horses.
Oh, I knew they sold them. I told you I watched the documentary about the making of.
So, and the thing is, see when you go in, you get the thing around your neck, and it's you just press it, and it talks you around, and it's Michael Palin.
Oh my God!
Oh, wow.
I have to do this.
I'm sure it's Michael Palin. It's Michael Palin or Terry Jones.
Well, Terry Jones died.
No, but it's basically. I think it's Michael Palin. It's basically. Let's see.
Terry Jones is the one that was a historian. So
true, but Michael Palin is a famous.
Is it this one? Hold on. Let's see if it's this one. See.
Well, when I retire, my plan is to go back to the UK.
Yeah.
Just going to buy a train ticket and travel around.
You can just hear his voice in the background. But
Can't hear anything on that one, but
yeah, it's quite quiet. But
They used
basically,
actually the whole castle for that movie.
yeah. Basically, I've got videos just doing the thing of all the rooms, and you can see, yep, that's the bit he's standing up in the window, and that's the bit where they're all in there meant to be actually doing the bit when he gets in and Gordon Kay standing there with a cash. Well, she's etc. So they're basically, yeah. So I was up there, and I could not resist buying myself a horse.
Oh, you have to.
So yeah, I always thought I was crazy buying coconut shells. But
We
I did
needed
go.
to
I did go.
do. We needed to do a review of Life of Brian. I know we did.
We did the Holy Grail.
We did
Yeah,
Holy
I'll
Grail. We need
always
to do Life
say.
of Brian
Yeah,
next Easter, perhaps.
yeah, I picked that up as well. The Pocket History of Scotland.
Nice.
There was a
Nice.
few other books about Scottish castles and stuff like that, and castle. They actually had the one about Castle, but I thought just a wee book so I could just flick through.
Get
It's
there.
nothing fancy. It's just got bits and pieces about Roman and basically the North Sea, the clans. It's not in depth. Definitely come over. I know Gary was talking about it, but I went to the charity shops as well, and I only found one thing in a charity shop. Then I went to the museum, the toy museum, and I found a lot of stuff. But in the charity shops, I found that.
ooh,
Wow.
And I thought, oh, good, a set of cards. The back of them will just have the pictures. So I was thinking, a set of cards, the back of them with a picture. And I thought, that looks really nice. And then you actually notice things like the Joker is the Gorn, right? The Queen, Uhura. So every one of them's different pictures. So it is.
Excuse me.
So a full pack of cards, all different pictures. So
wow.
I am so looking forward just to actually going through these cards because the Queen of Spades, look at that. Is that not a cool?
Yeah, but
Basically, she's
that's perhaps not necessarily the best character to have with her as.
it's basically the Queen. She's the Queen in all the decks.
Yes. Okay. Well, and I was going to say, but
And get the Ace is the Enterprise. So basically, each character. So I thought initially there was 52, but there's 13. So 13 images, and basically Sulu's the 10s, Jacks are Spock, Queen's Uhura, and where is the other ones? The Ace is the Enterprise. Come on. 8 is Chekhov. Come on, where's the other ones? 7 is Yeoman Rand. The 3 is Dr. McCoy. I thought he would have actually been higher up.
Yeah.
The King is Kirk. Surprise, surprise. So basically, I thought it was a really nice wee set. Charity shop did me well just with the one thing, and I just loved the Joker card, the Gorn.
I can barely see it.
Right, hold on. Let's do that.
Okay, now I can see it. Thank you.
Right.
It looks almost like a Silurian.
Aye, it's basically the thing. And so that's the wee packet.
Oh.
Star Trek playing cards. So I thought, yay! That's the only thing I got in the charity shop was that. I did pick up other wee bits and pieces. I picked up those. For when I'm out and about. So just to be travel ones. They're no fancy, they're no expensive, they're just wee cheap ones, so ideal. But I went into the toy museum and I picked that up.
Wow.
So basically, there was about 4 or 5 different types of this one. I got the small one because it's
Wow.
on my shelf behind me. So I'll put it up beside.
You
I've
don't
got
have
the.
room behind you.
I know, but there is. I've got I've got Zebra one. I've got the Mystery Machine. I didn't have this one, so that had to go on my list. So I picked that up. But
Wow.
do you know who this is?
That was very.
Oh, Diana Rigg, Mrs. Peel.
What nasty situation have you got in store for me this time? You have your own built-in early warning system, you know. That will look in the eye.
Oh,
roses.
it's not Mrs. Peel.
It
Looks
is.
like her.
Quite time's breakfast. I would have rung, but as you can see, I'm all tied up.
Very nice. She's not as pretty as Mrs. Peel. Oh my God, Patrick McGowan.
Come on.
Well,
Has
that's
anyone
Seen
ever
pic-
remarked on the astonishing resemblance between yourself and Florence Nightingale?
well, that's fantastic.
So basically, the sword, the umbrella is a sword, and you've got all the wee bits and pieces. She's got a gun, so she has. But she's also got a champagne bottle, a couple of glasses. There is even the pussycat, even the card for it. Purr. So it's basically, oh, and it's all about all the different agents and stuff like that.
Wow.
So, but yeah, I picked that up. I could not resist it. Even the wee. I don't know if you can read that. Mrs. Peel wears needed. Mrs. Peel where needed. Miss
Those
Peel.
are beautiful.
Yeah, I could not resist them when I got them.
No,
And
of course
it's
not.
got the stands as well. And as I said,
Where's the body? Nobody.
It's the body.
Well, the chief creditor where to find you, and he said, Mrs. Peel is in ladies' underwear. I'll rattle up the bell.
so I could not resist it. Look, so the wee stands and everything were there.
Wow.
No, they're not as nice as the big chief ones, but the fact that the stands.
Well, the face is vaguely like her. That's how I knew
Yeah.
what it was. Vaguely.
Yeah,
But
but
she's not as pretty.
oh no, it's basically the way they've done. Basically, the heads are a bit bigger than they should be.
But he looks more like Patrick McGowan than she does
Yeah.
like Mrs. Peel.
But the fact is,
I've just survived an electrifying experience.
I could not resist them. Just, I mean, put them
That's
together
fantastic.
as a set, and I've just dropped them all stuff. So I picked that up. That's my collect. That's my pick of the week. Mrs. Peel and Steve. I could not resist them. So with all the bits and pieces and everything,
I don't have a pick of the week.
I've just dropped the champagne. Hold on.
I haven't bought anything interesting recently.
So she's got a champagne as well.
Oh my God. That's brilliant.
Yeah. So yeah, and she's got a couple of small champagne glasses as well. So they're going to go up on the shelving unit. They're actually going to go here, somewhere in there, because I've got the down at the bottom. You can see. I don't know if you can see it. I've got Ash and I've got John Wayne. So I think those two are going to go down there beside them. And then when I get my Laurel and Hardy, whenever that turns up, they'll have to reorganise again. I'm in the process of reorganising at the moment because I've run out of space. And the charity shop's going to get, I would reckon, about 40 DVDs, maybe 50. and they're going to get a load of books and a good few figures. I was tempted to sell them on eBay and stuff like that, but I thought, nah, charity shop, that way if somebody's going for a wee hunt, they can find it in the charity shop.
We have a
Same as
charity
I like
shop
doing.
here that only sells books, and unfortunately, they're closing because the people that own the land want to sell the land to build ugly apartment houses.
Yeah, there's one here that actually only does books. And I went in and got a couple of nice history books. I was in today as well. I actually went in and I bought 2 books, and I forgot about, 3 books. Oh, surprise, surprise for my metal detecting. One of them was the Ordnance Survey quiz book, or puzzle book. It sounds a lot boring, but even though it's got a lot of questions about the Ordnance Survey stuff, it's actually got a lot of really good maps, and some of them are old maps and such like. So even though it looks as if you're actually answering questions about the Ordnance Survey, it's got some old maps in it, and that's what I got it for. So I'm not as bad as I look. And I got the Guide to the Scottish Countryside, an old book, and it's the same idea. It's got some good old reference pictures and stuff like that of round about the area.
I need to get back to Scotland.
Yeah, so things like that. And then I found this in the charity shop, which I thought was quite nice.
Oh, nice.
So archaeology.
Wow.
Discover the world of archaeology, how to piece together the civilizations of the past. It is a kid's book.
That's fantastic.
It's not a small kids book. It's basically like for school projects and stuff like that. And it just talks about how things are done, detecting the past, preservation and stuff like that. Things you should be looking at. So if you dig up something, what you should do, don't just actually wash it. Just make sure it's not something that's going to rot, that type of thing. So it's nice wee tidbits. So I thought I'll get that one, and that's for my metal detecting side. So there you go. I could not resist. I basically held it off long enough, and I wanted to show my steed. So I did my steed, both my steeds, my John steed and my other steed. So there you go. I bought 2 steeds today. Does that count as a steed?
Coconuts.
Yeah, I know. Does that count as a steed? Or
Yeah.
does that count as a steed?
Absolutely.
So I bought 2 steeds. I could not resist that one. So as you can imagine, I'm skint again. So all that money I had put aside for the Comic-Con, gone. Comic-Con's in 2 weeks' time. So yeah, so the Comic-Con's going to be fun. I've kept money aside for it, and I'm going to go looking for something that I'm missing. I'm not going to just say, "Oh, that looks nice. Oh, that looks nice." I'm going to look around and go, "I really want that," because I was talking to the guy who does the toy shop. Then he says there's a load of Judge Dredd stuff coming out. He says the problem is they're only 3.5-inch figures, right? But they're charging £20 each.
Really?
Right, exactly. Whereas I've got that figure down there, the Judge Dredd one there, right? And that basically is a lot nicer figure. However, there's one figure that I want. It's a judge on a comic book accurate lawgiver. Sorry, lawmaster. So he says it's £80 for that, for the judge and the bike, and I want the bike. And it's a bit expensive, but I don't care. I want. So I can hopefully find it in the Comic-Con, maybe an older one, a second-hand one. But accordingly, these are new figures that are coming out. And accordingly, they're doing Judge Giant, they're doing Walter, they're doing a load of other figures. So yeah, they're meant to be bringing out a load of other figures. So, right, what's this? What's this? Have I missed something here? What have I missed? I was too busy doing that. Yep, Emma. Oh, the company for the Avengers. He did tell me, and I can't even remember. He did tell me. Product Enterprises Limited. It's not Big Chief. I can't remember off the top of my head. He did tell me it's not Eagle Moss either. There is a third one. What was the third company that did those big figures? Somebody will know. Truthfully, I don't know, and I've no purdy either. They only had those two figures in the set. So, and the guy says he's got the same set as well, because he obviously purchased his own, because he's a toy museum. So he purchased it for the toy museum, which is effectively his big man cave, because they own the toy museum, because it's all the toys are handed down the family. So they've got toys, they've got metal soldiers from their great grandparents, because the family owned land up there, and they had a big house, and the toys just got kept and kept and kept, and eventually they had that many, they decided to do a museum of all the toys throughout the years. So they go back nearly 200 years, toys. So there's some really gabby teddy bears that you can see they're basically all weird fun, but they're actually scary. They'll sort of sit there and just look at you like that. And you're sitting there thinking, I wouldn't give that to a kid nowadays. But they have got, I mean, and they're online. Calendar Toy Museum, you can actually see the type of stuff they've got in it. That was the one that I first saw a Judge Dredd from in '95 was in his collection. And that's when I realised that, there is Judge Dredd toys out there, and it was figures rather than just the things you would get from comics and stuff like that. So he had one of the first figures, but he buys them for the toy museum, his man cave, and then he buys them to sell in the shop as well. So he had those two, and he says that's the only two he's got, so there is no other one. So yeah, I didn't know that.
What's that noise I hear in the background?
That's no me. I thought it was somebody.
It could be my fan, but it's been on all evening, so.
Well, your fan, it's probably, your fan's probably moved slightly.
Yeah, I heard something that sounds electronic.
Yeah. So we're going to end up in the next wee while, because I've got to go and see my auntie. Who's in the bad way, so that's
at 10 o'clock at night?
No, tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, that's why I need to actually make sure I'm rested, because I need to go and see her. And that is one that is not. It's not I could be late. This is one that I need to go, and there is under no circumstances can I miss it. Put it this way: see if I'm leaving and my car breaks down, it's that important. I'm going to have to get a taxi up to Glasgow, which will be a 40 quid ride.
Wow.
There and back. So that's how important it is tomorrow. So I just need to make sure I get some sleep and I'm not tired or anything, because no matter what, I could be up from now until tomorrow morning and I'll still have to drive, and that's how important it is. So
yeah, no. Well, on tomorrow's B movie show, we are going to be watching, let me just double check the name. It's called An Angel for Satan. And it looks to be an Italian movie. I guess in a scary version of an Italian Western. I don't know. I've never seen it.
It's got Barbara Steele in it, which means it's going to be an Italian.
Yeah, it's going to be. It's going to be
Italian
really,
horror.
It's going to be awful.
And it's
which
going to be
means
dubbed
the chat
really
is going to be
badly.
fantastic.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
it's going to be
don't.
it's going to be dubbed really badly.
Oh yeah,
They'll be running around going like that,
yeah.
and there'll be
The
somebody
worse
saying,
the movie,
"Help!
the
Help!
better
Help!"
the
It'll be
chat.
dead quiet. The dubbing's going to be atrocious. They'll
It's like,
probably
I'm
be
not-
walking out. The booming will be walking out going like that, and then you'll hear the ah as if she's
Well,
screaming in the background.
It'll be-
as we say every week, the worse the movie, the better the chat.
Yes, and I'm hoping to be back tomorrow, so I should actually be back in. I
I
did
may
catch
be
last
late.
week's,
I don't know because I'm going to an escape room tomorrow.
and you don't know if you're going to get out.
I should be out in time, but there's no guarantee. But
Yeah.
I'm hoping to make it in time to watch with the rest of you.
Yeah.
But again, the worse the movie, the better the chat.
See, a lot of the time I'm watching it and it's on in the background, and I just don't have time to do the chat because I'm listening to it. I did that with the Battle of the Stars, Network Stars last week.
Oh, did you get to watch any of it?
I did. The Gary Burghoff, I thought he did well considering.
Well, considering he's missing part of his hand,
Yes, and
which is why you don't want him on the tug of war.
Yeah, but also remember he actually his time at 22 seconds was the same as whoever was running against Bill Murray. No, Bill
Right,
Murray.
running is fine, but he
Elias
couldn't be on
Smith
the
and
tug of war
Jones.
because he's missing a part of his hand.
Yeah, but he did 22 seconds, and somebody else, whoever was running against Elias Smith and Jones, did 22 seconds as well. And considering he is taller,
Yeah.
full.
Well, hey! Gary Burghoff, like me, is short and has a lower center of gravity.
Yeah, but even it was the pullover thing that slowed him down. But considering he's shorter, so he had this thing with the overhand, and
he
his
wouldn't have been
hand.
able to because again
He did
missing part of his
22
hand.
seconds compared to he's somebody was in his team the next race,
right?
Who was going against? I keep on. It's Murphy. The one that played Elias Smith and Jones, was it?
Yeah,
Ben Murphy.
Right.
Ben Murphy.
Ben Murphy, yeah.
It was Ben and Peter. That's right. So Ben Murphy, the guy who was racing against him, did the exact same time, 22 seconds. So, and that guy was like 6 foot and stuff like that. So he didn't have the same. But so Gary Burghoff didn't, didn't he?
Mr. Hyde is considering running another episode of the show, and for the North Americans, it is a big deal because we remember it. It's people who were on popular programs when we were growing up.
Yeah,
Europeans may not appreciate it.
We had
it's a big deal for North Americans.
We had things like It's a Knockout and stuff like that.
Right, it's the same kind of show. It's just that these are people that you may not have seen, just as It's a Knockout or people we may not have seen. Because there's obviously a lot more cross-pollination now.
Yeah, but the difference is,
it was 40 years ago.
Your Battle of the Network Stars is they were actually competing against each other. It's a Knockout and stuff like that. They were doing silly things to compete against each other, like carrot floating about with big chef outfits on, trying to with a basket on it, trying to clip it. We all got this big suit on.
Prince Edward's attempt to do the program. But yeah, no, Battle of the Network Stars was on twice a year for 8 or 9 years, between the late 70s and the mid to late 80s. And it was a big deal because, you know, there wasn't, again, as much cross-pollination as there is now.
Yep. And it was definitely fun watching some of the big stars like Lindsay doing her.
Oh, right, because we'd only seen her doing slow motion, and now she's running in real time.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Mr. Hyde is considering trying to find a couple of additional episodes for us to hang out.
I don't see what's wrong with that, but that's what I'm saying. 90% of the time, I am usually doing stuff, so I'm watching it in the background, the same as instead of watching a TV show, I've got that on the background. I do very little chat, but sometimes I get finished, like I did the last time, and actually get in the chat. but it's one of those things I always do manage to make it, and if I don't make it that time, I always try and catch up with it because some of the movies are just fun. And even though they're
This
bad,
movie looks to be a
I
blast.
see the thing is, I've heard people actually saying, "Oh, the movie was so bad," and I'm sitting there thinking, "I enjoyed that." But I like bad movies. I
Well,
like
I do
movies.
too. I love bad movies. When I lived in Cincinnati for 2 of the longest years of my life in the early 1980s.
You were actually sharing the apartment upstairs from Laverne and Shirley.
No, they lived in Milwaukee. I was in Cincinnati.
Well, who was in Cincinnati? It wasn't Rhoda.
WKRP was.
WKRP is
Yeah.
a brilliant show.
I've got
Unfortunately, they
WKRP.
can't really do Blu-rays of it because they can't get licenses to the music, which is a real
Well,
shame.
I've got the whole show.
Cincinnati.
WKRP.
Yeah.
I used to work across the street from the sign in the movie when they show you that fountain.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually called Fountain Square, and I worked across the street from there. I used to take my lunch and eat in that in that little in that.
See, I know WKRP in Cincinnati because I remember that, but was it not Phyllis or Rhoda then? There was one of the
Phyllis
ones that
and
was
Rhoda
the
are from the late 70s, and WKRP straddled the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah, but what? It's the city, Rhoda or Phyllis.
Oh, Rhoda was in the New York.
Aye, because she was in Brooklyn. That's right. So
The Bronx, actually.
The Bronx.
Phyllis, I think, was San Francisco.
Was it? It's just that there was one of them that always remains at Cincinnati because that's why I initially read Laverne and Shirley.
Cincinnati.
Eh?
WKRP is the only show ever set in Cincinnati.
Is it? I just had this thing of one of the ones with the women.
For those of you who don't know, George Clooney grew up across the river from Cincinnati in Kentucky. And his father was a newsreader in Cincinnati when I was living there in the early 80s, and nobody ever heard of George.
Wow.
Yes. His father was named Nick Clooney, who was the brother of the singer Rosemary Clooney.
Ah.
And Rosemary Clooney is George's aunt.
No, did I know that? I'm not sure.
Yes, well, she is. Piece of trivia. And so he has outpaced his father and his aunt to be.
Neither his father nor his.
Neither of them would have been invited to a royal wedding, and he was. Granted, he only went because he wanted to meet the Queen.
I'll say neither of them played Batman.
Neither of them played.
Were they the chef? Did they want to shouted dinner, Batman?
Remember,
how
as
Bruce
far as
Wayne's
I'm
mum used to call him for lunch.
Adam West is the only Batman that matters.
Yep, absolutely right.
Yep, and I've got the full Adam West series down there. So I have. And I might dig it out. But after Wings is finished, Outlander's going on the list. I've still not, because Outlander was filmed in Castle as well.
Wow.
So basically, they've done some filming. Obviously, they filmed in Glasgow, but they did filming in Castle.
You said it's in Paisley?
Perthshire.
Oh, Perthshire. Sorry.
I've actually.
So it's basically very near. It's basically not that far from Stirling.
Okay. Remember, I haven't been to Scotland in 49 years.
Well, remember, I'm in Ayrshire, and it's only an hour and a half from my house.
Because I spent a week in Blair Gowrie.
Blair Gowrie, that sounds as if you're actually not
I
too
think
far.
it was near Perth.
I was going to say Stirling, where Mel Gibson managed to defeat the English at the Battle of Stirling Bridge without having a bridge present.
Freedom! Sorry.
That's all right. I can laugh at that. I've actually been watching, you were saying you've been watching Kelly's Heroes. I've actually been.
God, I loved it. He was watching Hogan's Heroes.
I was watching Hogan's.
I've actually gone the other way because I don't know what got me on it, but there was a series in the early 2000s called Ultimate Force.
Don't know it.
It was with my brain just completely switched off. Big bald guy, tough guy, does a lot of tough stuff. Does a lot
Not
of,
The Rock.
no, English actor.
Oh,
Used to be in EastEnders. The name will
What's the
come
name of
eventually.
it?
Ross Kemp.
what's the name of it?
Ross Kemp. It's called
No, the show.
It's called Ultimate Force, and it's basically about the SAS.
Oh,
Um,
the British
uh,
television action drama shown on
Yeah.
ITV.
yeah,
Red Troop of the SAS. 21
Yeah.
episodes. That's a long time.
yeah, it's four seasons.
Wow.
I kind of sort of binge-ish watched them.
Oh, Ross
but-
Kemp?
Yeah,
Really?
the thing is, there's some bits about that, watching it back again now. I'm thinking, really, and there's a few bits that I'm
Is it just
thinking.
me, or does he play? Has he been on? Oh God, what's the name of it? Oh God, Jimmy Carr. 8 out of 10 Cats Lost Countdown. Doesn't Ross Kemp play an absolute jerk?
He's the troop sergeant in this.
Oh, different person than I was thinking. Never mind. I take it back.
Right, it's in Stirlingshire. Sorry, right. So there's Stirling there, right? Stirling Castle and stuff like that, and there's Doon there. Doon
And
Castle.
where's Blair Gowrie?
Blair Gowrie is away up here.
Oh, so I wasn't close.
No, you weren't close. Blair
Because I
Gowrie.
remember driving through Perth.
There's
So obviously it
Blair
was a long
Gowrie.
time.
There's Blair Gowrie.
It was 49 years ago. I was very young.
So basically, I went from here to here. So as you can see, the country's small. That is going
All
from
right.
here to here is an hour and a half drive.
I was watching a documentary, and they talked about how Hadrian's Wall was less than 80 miles. That's less than 80 miles shore to shore?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Wow, it looks bigger.
Well, I think I'm trying to remember. I think it's something like the furthest. If you're right in the middle of the Isle of Britain, you are 100 and some odd miles from the sea. The furthest you can get in the British Isles from the sea is something like 120 miles, if that.
Yeah, and that is either round about Birmingham, Sheffield way, or it's going to be somewhere in the centre of Scotland. But it's
or somewhere down south where England and Wales are widest.
Yeah, that's round about the Birmingham area. That's what I was saying.
Oh right, yeah.
So that's basically somewhere there. But that's what I'm saying. It's just the furthest. But you're not that far from the sea, no matter where you are. You can drive 15 an hour most places.
I need to get back to the UK someday.
I think there was only the one castle. I
think you're right. For the most part, everything was shot at Doon Castle.
Yeah, and the only
all the interior scenes.
Yeah, and the exterior scene they used basically it was a fake wall,
right?
To have them because they couldn't go out on the bit. Well, there is a walkway around it, but it's blocked so you can't get around because there's nothing at either side. It's a drop. So the walkway is on the wall.
Right, because the bit when John Cleese says, your mother smells of elderberries, whatever.
Your father was a hamster and your mother smells of elderberries.
Yes. That I know is Doon Castle.
Yeah.
And then the interior of all the other places is also Doon Castle, including like the place where the banquet is and the place where the young ladies who play who want to be spanked.
Yes.
There's also another room at Doon Castle. So yeah.
Well, I've been in them all because I've got videos of
That's
all
why
of
I'm saying I need to get there.
It's basically, it was great actually going to, because I've been saying for ages, and if I knew I was going up, I would have taken my surcoat so I could have put it on and back to the horse. My wife would have killed me. My father-in-law and mother-in-law would have laughed their asses off.
Yeah, no, I spent a week or two in Scotland in 1974. So it was a very, very, very long time ago.
I was only 9.
I was 14.
I was only 9 in 1974.
I turned 15 that summer. You know, it's funny. It
I
reminds me.
only turned 9 that year.
Yeah, no, I turned 15 that summer. But I remember this morning, there's a program that I don't know if it's on anymore because I don't listen to that kind of music. I don't listen to pop music anymore. But there was a program in the US called American Top 40. And they played the top 40 songs according to Billboard's charts. And this morning, they were playing July 9th of 1974. And they played 1977. They played that Scottish group who was big with SARTUD, SATURDSADAY, Saturday Night. What was the name of that group?
Bay City Rollers.
Thank you.
70s.
Right. They were playing Bay City Roller song that I'd never heard.
Shang-a-lang.
It was not that. It was another one that I'd never heard of. From the summer of 77, and I'd never heard of it.
Because my 3 sisters used to play the Bay City Rollers for 2 years. One of my friends laughs because I'm the only guy she knows that actually knows all the words for the Bay City Rollers songs.
Well, I remember SATURD Saturday Night. I remember that song because that came out when I heard it. It was the summer of 74, the year I was in Scotland that summer. And I spent a couple of weeks in Aberystwyth in Wales.
I remember my sister's wedding, I think it was 74 or 75. And the younger of my 3 sisters, my 3 sisters are older than me. The younger of my 3 sisters was told to get she was a bridesmaid. And she was told to get an outfit for night so she could change out of the bridesmaid outfit. And my mother wasn't happy because she came back with a Bay City Rollers outfit. White jumper with the tartan down the sides, tartan pocket.
Yep.
The 3/4 length trousers, white with the tartan down the sides, round and on the pockets.
Wow.
And with a tartan scarf wrapped around her waist. And that was for the wedding, for the party at night. My mother went nuts. I'm not letting you choose again.
It's funny, as somebody who is of part Scottish descent who lives in the US, tartans are a big thing here. If you go to any Scottish shop, tartans are a big thing. And when I found out that Jamie McCrimmon would never have worn a tartan, I was crushed.
Yeah, for the simple fact that it was just what he would have worn a plaid, but even at that, it would have been basically just a dyed wool.
I was crushed.
Yeah.
Because they sell modern and ancient, but how ancient is ancient?
Yeah, the plaid is basically ancient, but it was never a kilt.
Okay.
So basically, when they're talking about ancient, it's a clan colours, but how's the best way to describe it? You've seen, there's actually a Glasgow band, basically a drummer, and they do, if you do Streets of Glasgow Scottish music, you see them, they've got the plaid on, so it's just hanging on them. It's not a kilt, it's just plaid. That's more than likely how it would look.
Okay.
So you would look at it and it's more of a plaid. So it basically would hang, and it's not like kilts and stuff like that, and with the wee bit hanging down. It would be, in effect, a big bit of material wrapped around, and with a belt on it. So it basically covers them, but they can
Sounds
also...
like a toga.
Very like a toga, but just it's a lot heavier because of the weather and stuff like that. So it basically was a lot more, and so that's why it got brought down to a dress code. And when the army wanted to ding me, they basically took the plaid and made it neat.
All right. Question for you, and excuse my ignorance. I understand that the dress uniform of the Scottish regiments involves a kilt.
Most of them,
Please
yes.
tell me that they do not fight in a kilt.
No.
Thank you.
Have you ever seen Carry On Up the Khyber?
No.
Carry On movie, Carry On Up the Khyber.
We
The
never
Devils
got
and
those.
Scouts.
Engage!
They used to fight.
We never got the Carry On movies here.
Yeah, they used to fight in a kilt. When the kilt was part of their military outfit, but nowadays, no.
Because I know, be still my heart, I know that Lieutenant Johnny wears a kilt. But if once he stops being an equerry and goes back to active duty.
Put it this way, see your Marines, they've got their dress uniform. Did he go to battle in them?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same principle.
Right, but didn't they wear kilts at one point?
Yes, they did.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Napoleonic. Actually, I'll show you.
I think
I may have one just so happens to be.
Did I send you guys the video? I know Dan Snow is not, like the world's greatest, but he did do a video about a Revolutionary War burial service for some Scots.
No, I saw something about that, but I don't think I've seen a video of it. But,
hold on, let me see if I can find it.
I'm looking for the thing before we finish off. Believe it or not, I have got a picture here that was pure coincidental. I was looking at it yesterday, and it's a postcard of a Scottish regiment. I think it's the 71st Scottish Highlanders. And where is it? Oh, how when you tidy things away, you forget when you tidy them.
I think that my man Mad Jack, when he went back to France in 1944 on holiday to Normandy, I think he actually wore a kilt when he walked on the beach in Normandy.
Yeah, but no, basically the kilt was worn as part and parcel. I've got a few books about it. One of these days I'll dig them out so you can see a few of the battle dress. But if you look for a picture called The Thin Red Line, you'll see it's Highlanders, and they're basically all in their kilt. That's how they would do it during the Napoleonic.
I'm not sure about Arnhem. There may have been. There may have been.
The only ones that would have actually worn a kilt during battle would have been the pipers.
The video I just posted, obviously I'm not a mod, so I can't, post the link itself, but you can just copy and paste it. This is a link to a funeral service for some Revolutionary War veterans, as lack of a better word. And there were some U.S. patriots and some British soldiers, and a couple of them were Scottish. And it shows the burial with military honors that these men were given, because they were originally buried in a shallow grave at the battle site, but they were later reburied in a real grave with full military honors. And a Scottish regiment flew over in full dress uniform and were part of the service. It was beautiful.
I think I saw something about that on one of the military YouTube channels.
Well, I just posted it. Obviously, and since I'm not a mod, it doesn't link. But if you copy and paste it, you can see it.
You are a mod now.
Oh, I'm honored. Thank you. I wasn't whining. I was just, I wasn't whining. I was just making a statement.
Right. So basically, you should have access anyway.
Okay, then I'll repost it.
Kenny the Red Twitch.
No, there it is. Like I said, I wasn't whining. I was just making a statement.
Not a
But
problem.
yeah, so it's really interesting. I watched it a couple of weeks ago, and I know a lot of us have problems with Dan Snow, but this was a good video.
He's generally a good historian. It's unfortunate when it comes up with.
He can be.
I mean, I
But
don't love his politics, but he's a
Yeah.
decent historian.
Yeah. I mean, if people can keep their politics out, this is the my reply. I mean, to the infamous Miss DeConnick. If you don't like my politics, don't buy my comics. I don't care
What
about
is
your
that? Something that oh god,
Kelly Sue DeConnick, wasn't it? It's famous.
Yes, it was. It was.
I say,
Then she complained that nobody was buying her comics.
I said, my answer would be, I personally don't care about your politics. What annoys me
is they're too interested in their politics to tell you the history.
Yeah.
Well, there's a woman here in the U.S. named Laura Ingraham who wrote a book called "Shut Up and Sing."
You told us about it last
I
week.
did. Sorry, I couldn't remember. And basically, I don't care what your politics are.
Yeah. As
I
Nerdrotic says,
don't need to be,
Yeah.
Like a product of your, indoctrination. I don't care.
Yeah. As Nerdrotic says, dance monkey dance.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, quite agree.
Speaking of neurotic, it cracks me up that ever since he left California, I remember when he was telling everybody he was leaving California, he was like, I promise I will vote Republican. I promise I will never vote Democrat. I promise. It was hilarious.
It is. It's basically because it is one of those things. It's the same as anybody else. They say, "Oh, really? The politicians have destroyed this state." Then they move and thought, "Oh, he's very similar to the guy I used to vote for, so I'll vote for him." And then they wonder why.
Remember, I live in Florida, which is either
It's too hot according to
Texas.
Disney. According to Disney, it's too hot. That's why all the thingies were down.
Yeah,
because
well,
it's too
don't get
hot.
me started on Disney. But Florida is leading the country in the number of people who are moving to it. And
problem is you don't want it to be
it's
trampled.
amazing that people who still vote Democrat who moved from other cities and other states are still voting Democrat, but the reasons that brought them here are because we're Republicans.
Yeah.
They bought here because the policies of Democrat policies.
Right.
Yeah,
Why
they
would
moved
you wanna
out. They
vote
moved out of
Democrat policies that are
Democrat-controlled
policies
cities.
that you left?
They moved out of Democrat-controlled cities because they couldn't live there any longer. It was too expensive, too much crime, and then they move and they vote for Democrat and wonder why it happens again and again. It is terrible. We could start again, but we're not going to because we're going to finish up next week. We'll hopefully we'll have a show. Can't guarantee it because we might actually be just me sitting here going, "I'm on my Todd now." Sorry about that. And
I should be. Yeah, I
don't worry about it.
really-
If you can't make it, don't worry. It's
I'll
one
be
of those
here
things.
for a little bit, but I have to be in
Yeah.
Tampa
Don't worry about it
in
because
the afternoon.
I can talk. Believe it or not, talker.
There's
Occasionally
a
call
guy.
pick up, man.
There's a
Well-
guy who has a TV show here in the States named Greg Gutfeld. And anybody in the US who ever watched Fox News Channel will know Greg Gutfeld.
I still occasionally watch his monologue on YouTube.
Okay, well, I am going to see him live 1 week from right now.
Very good.
So I'm not going to be here. I need to buy his book before I go because hopefully he will sign it for me. Because I met him at one of his previous books, and he told me he loved me because I'm shorter than he is.
Yeah. So
We've got Patrick McGowan. Gotta love it.
It's that casual air of elegance that always betrays me.
It's that casual air of elegance that always betrays me. I'm just going to play with this.
I haven't killed anyone all week.
And I'm not even going to actually try and do it in his voice. But I just love the fact that he's got a sword cane. So it is. But anyway,
Well, Peter, you mean you couldn't get any tartan paint?
no, but I've got a left-handed shovel. I've got a left-handed shovel.
No, Peter Harrington is saying he used to paint Airfix figures in tartan. I said, couldn't you find a tartan paint?
Hey, I paint it. Tartan's easy to paint. I used to paint some of my Highlanders. Easy peasy to paint tartan. So it was. Depends on the tartan you chose.
Yeah.
Because basically, red with black, as long as the squares aren't actually uniform, you can actually have it looks tartanish. Green with maybe a white and a bit of black looks nice as well. So tartan's easy to paint. Ish. If you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So till next week. Remember Mr. Hyde's B movie tomorrow.
Yes.
We'll be there. Colin, you got
8:30
anything coming up?
p.m. 8:30 p.m. East your British Standard Time or British Summer Time rather.
8 p.m. What time's that at yours?
8:30 Eastern North America time.
8:30.
Or
It's
or
8:30
let's see.
here.
Let's see. It's 3:30 Eastern North American or 12:30 Pacific.
Right, that sounds better because if it's 8:30 Eastern, I'm sitting there thinking
Yeah, it's
it's
8:30
not
British Summer
8:30 in
Time.
the UK. So yeah, so that's tomorrow. Colin, you got anything coming up? You and Mr. Emmett?
Not at the moment, no. We've got something we may hopefully coming up
The end
towards
of
the
the
end of
month.
the month, but we're not sorted out yet.
Yeah. Well, from myself, Colin, Julie, Steed, and Mrs. Peel,
Mrs.
remember, we're not old.
Where?
We're classic. So until next week, boys and girls, lads and lassies, thank you for joining us. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.